Good evening and welcome to the council meeting for Monday, November the 17th, 2025. Please rise for the playing of the national anthem and a moment of reflection. Please be seated. At this time, I will look to Councillor Phillips to read the land acknowledgement.
The land on which council meets today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabeg, Attawandarock, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many Indigenous peoples made up of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis. The Dish with One Wampum Agreement should remind us of our responsibility to ensure the territories on which we live and work is never emptied, and that we take care of the land and its inhabitants in a way that ensures its future sustainability.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the council meeting for November the 17th, 2025. As I was just saying to the CAO, I just realized it's my father's birthday, so I probably have to send a text message at some point. A couple of events that I wanted to bring note to. I wanted to start by thanking the folks from all of the legions across the city, Branch 350, Branch 418, Branch 24, and Branch 138, who hosted Remembrance Day ceremonies across the city last week. The ceremonies gave us the opportunity to pay tribute to the fallen, members of our community who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. I want to thank everyone involved who made these events possible. Special thanks to the folks at Branch 24 for hosting myself and several councillors, Councillor Dodge and Councillor McPherson, at their Armistice Memorial Dinner. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to celebrate 25 years of philanthropy in Niagara by attending the Niagara Community Foundation's 25th anniversary celebration at 13th Street Winery. I want to thank the team at the Niagara Community Foundation for all the work they've done for our community, and best wishes on 25 more. Last week, I also had the opportunity to attend the Auto Mayors Caucus in Cambridge, led by the town of Oakville. It was a very useful opportunity to sit down with other mayors who are experiencing similar difficulties with respect to the auto sector. The GM mayors tend to have a lot to talk about during those times, but it was an informative meeting, and we look forward to a number of the different advocacy initiatives that are coming out of the Auto Mayors Caucus. I also had the opportunity to attend the Bravehearts Gala, an unforgettable night of generosity and community spirit in support of the Queenston French Child Advocacy Centre, Niagara. I want to thank all the folks at the Queenston French Advocacy Centre for the incredibly important work that they do. Earlier this month, I also had the opportunity to present medals at the Niagara Children's Centre's Volt Hockey Tournament at Canada Games Park. The tournament drew teams from across Ontario to compete in Volt hockey. If you've never seen Volt hockey, it's an adaptive version of hockey played in electric-powered chairs. It's actually one of the most entertaining kids' sports I've ever had the chance to watch. I was enthralled for about an hour and a half. I do want to give a shout out to the Niagara Stingrays for repping the Niagara region at the awesome event, and kudos to the team from Barrie for winning it all. Last week, I also had the opportunity to attend the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative Water Summit, the regional meeting which was taking place in Oakville. I emceed the event. It was an excellent opportunity to see a lot of the good work that is going on across Ontario with respect to the Great Lakes and the different water projects that exist. Of particular note, I should give a shout out to the City of St. Catharines, because we were featured in a number of the different projects that are happening, along with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. We have a number of partnerships ongoing with the city's initiative, and it's always good to see. Last week, the GNCC and the WIN Council celebrated incredible women at the annual Women in Business Awards. A huge congratulations to our St. Catharines business owners, partners, and finalists. Kara Krezek, founder of Talent Strategy Collective and the Apiary, in the Emerging Business Award. Dorian Anderson of Grape and Wine, winner of Excellence in Tourism and Hospitality, and a special shout out to our very own Karen Doyle, Tourism Marketing Officer here at the City of St. Catharines, for being a finalist. Alora Gartley, Nova Phoenix Counseling Center, Healthcare Hero Award. I want to give a huge congratulations to these women, as well as all the other women nominees and recipients. On Saturday, I had the opportunity of attending along with Councillor Phillips, as well as Councillor Stevens, who is making it out and about from time to time. We attended the kickoff of the Maycourt Club of St. Catharines' annual Win a Christmas to Remember fundraising event hosted at Tepperman's. Now through December 6th, the community is invited to visit Tepperman's St. Catharines, located at 399 Louth Street, to view a beautiful collection of fully decorated holiday trees, wreaths, and garlands. The community is invited to visit the Tepperman showroom to purchase raffle tickets for a chance to win one of these beautifully decorated items just in time for the holiday season. All proceeds directly support Maycourt charities benefiting women and children across the Niagara region. On Saturday night, I also had the opportunity to attend the first Ontario Performing Arts Centre's Spark Gala fundraiser in celebration of the centre's 10th anniversary. The event featured music from the tenors and was an excellent opportunity to raise funds to fuel the next decade of artistic brilliance in Niagara. I had the opportunity to speak beforehand, and I made the comment. I was very lucky. I was sitting between former Mayor McMullen and former Mayor Sensic. I said, I pointed at Brian, and I said, that's the mayor who had the idea for the place. And I said, that's the mayor, pointing to Mayor Sensic, who had the opportunity to open the place. I said, I just get to be the mayor who gets to enjoy the place. It's kind of nice. The tenors may have distorted the joke and said I was the mayor who took credit for the place. I don't think that's what I said, but it sounds accurate. Thanks. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to join the Niagara Region Métis Council to raise the Métis flag in honor of Louis Riel, a powerful symbol of pride, resilience, and Métis heritage. Riel's legacy continues to inspire, reminding us of the strength of our shared history and the importance of protecting identity and culture. Big thank you to Derek Plant and the Métis Council for the invitation to join them, and also for the opportunity to continue to strengthen the relationship between the City of St. Catharines and our local Métis community. This morning, we raised the flag for National Addictions Awareness Week with Kazan at City Hall. I want to thank the team at Kazan for the meaningful work that they do here in St. Catharines. Kazan provides support, counseling, and guidance to individuals and families affected by substance use and gambling, helping people take real steps toward recovery and stability. And as we recognize National Addictions Awareness Week, let's continue to reduce stigma, encourage open conversations, and support those who need it the most. The Association of Fundraising Professionals Golden Horseshoe Chapter recently celebrated their National Philanthropy Day Awards, and there was much to celebrate in St. Catharines. Congratulations to Tom Rankin of Rankin Construction, who was awarded the Outstanding Philanthropist Award for his decades of philanthropic work in our community and region. Congrats to the Niagara Community Foundation, who was awarded the Outstanding Community Partner Award. Congratulations to Jillian's Place, who was awarded the Outstanding Leadership and Focus on Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. And congrats to Pathstone Mental Health, who was awarded the Outstanding Marketing and Communications Campaign for their Project Plaid initiative, a powerful mental health awareness campaign. All right, so on to the upcoming events. On Wednesday of this week, November 19th, not only is it an extremely exciting budget meeting for all of us, we are also celebrating the launch of the Niagara Health Foundation's Celebration of Lights fundraising campaign with the lighting of the holiday tree at City Hall. The ceremony will begin at 5 p.m. in front of City Hall. All are welcome to join. The annual celebration of lights provides individuals with the opportunity to honor loved ones during the holiday season and recognize the frontline heroes of Niagara Health for their dedication. Hope to see all members of council there if you are coming to the meeting in person. I also want to invite everyone in the St. Andrews Ward to join myself, Councillors Kushner and Harris for the Ward Town Hall STC event on November the 26th. It will be held at the St. George and St. Mercurius Coptic Orthodox Church located at 118 Glenridge Avenue from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We hope to see you there for a great chance to connect and discuss what matters most to you, and you can sign up to learn more at stcatharines.ca/townhallstc. Let It Glow is back for its 5th year. This year's festival kicks off Saturday, November 29th and runs through Sunday, January 4th, 2026, and will transform Rennie Park, Port Dalhousie, and downtown St. Catharines into a winter wonderland with sparkling light displays and free family-friendly activity. Residents and visitors are invited to attend opening night on November 29th from 4 to 8 p.m. and join in the holiday spirit with live entertainment, glow-in-the-dark giveaways, and complimentary hot chocolate at both Rennie Park and Lakeside Park. DJ, beloved holiday characters, and festive buskers will add to the holiday cheer, while historic Lakeside Park Carousel will open one night-only offering nostalgic rides. Families can also capture memorable moments at a Santa photo station with complimentary photos to share and cherish. I look forward to seeing everyone on November 29th to officially kick off the holiday season. I want to give a shout out to the incredibly talented local drag artist Ebony LaBelle, who will be appearing on season 6 of Canada's Drag Race, premiering November 20th on Crave. She's already made our community proud as Miss Pride Niagara and Pride Niagara Ambassador, and we wish her all the best as she steps onto the national stage. Congratulations, Ebony. The Garden City is cheering you on. And finally, tonight we have to say good night to our clerk, our acting clerk, Donna, who has been with us for, how long have you been sitting in? 16 months. Trusted left hand in this case, but Donna has done a fantastic job of helping us keep these meetings going straight. If you watch council meetings across the Niagara region, you will know that there are no meetings that run as smoothly as the St. Catharines meetings. And I don't say that because I am tied to this place. Seriously, watch the other councils. We do really good. But a large part of that is because of Donna. And while I think we're all looking forward to having City Clerk Kristen Sullivan come back and join us, I think we will also miss Donna. And so Donna, on behalf of council, I just want to say thank you for the last 16 months. You have done a fantastic job, and we will miss you.
Thank you.
So thank you. I should say Donna's not actually going anywhere. She will still be in clerk. So if you want to go visit her, she will be there. She just won't have to come to council meetings. So she gets her Monday nights back. Who do I have? Councillor Stevens is up first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually didn't mean to do that, but seeing as I am here, it was an honor to go to Branch 418 Remembrance Day celebrations at the newly renovated Polish Society Hall on Facer Street. And next year it'll be held at the newly built Polish Legion on Pine Street. So it was an honor and a privilege to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I will say, shout out to the Polish Hall on Facer Street. The inside really does look beautiful after the renovation. If you get a chance, go take a look. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Rio Lanes Christmas Celebration Extravaganza kicks off on Saturday, November the 29th at 6 p.m. And of course, non-perishable food donations and toy donations can be put in the barrels that they have along the curb. And that's 2 hours after the Let It Glow celebration, so we can do it all in one night. Thank you.
I look forward to many of us attending Lakeside Park and then motoring over to Rio Lane. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to give a shout out to, I was able to represent you and give greetings at the Branch 418 Remembrance Day ceremony. I just want to give a shout out to Yvonne Glowacki for all the volunteer and dedication that she has for the Legion and in organizing that as well. Shout out to the Lincoln Welland Regiment Band for providing music, and then also to the Sea Cadets who put on a great performance alongside the Scouts. So it was quite a nice day, and just wanted to give them a shout out. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An event on November 29th, but you still will have time to go to Port Dalhousie because this is from 1 to 4. Willow Arts Community is having a fundraiser. It's their first kind of big fundraiser. It's called the Artful Afternoon, and it is an art-making celebration where participants will take part in workshops led by Jeff Farnsworth, painter, and Sahir Zahidi to experience the benefits of creativity that Willow programs offer to their membership. And there's also going to be an art auction, and the art can be previewed on the Willow Arts website, thewillowcommunity.com, and it is $25 a person, so great cause. And St. George's Church, their Advent Cafe evening topic on the 27th. Yes, I believe so, is all about Christmas, and there will be snacks and carol singing. So for those
Council, where's the Willow event at?
The Willow event is actually happening at Willow Arts, at Silver Spire Church.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All
Yes. And that is all.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mako.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a couple of special guests in Port Dalhousie that have recently taken up residence and become quasi-celebrities, you might say, because they are wild turkeys. And they are living currently at the corner of Martindale and the QEW, and we're crossing the road multiple times daily. And I just wanted to thank our city comm staff and the Humane Society, put together a really good press release because the Humane Society was getting inundated with phone calls about what they should be doing. And it is balancing public safety with coexistence with nature. We're luckily in the Garden City. We have a lot of green spaces, but just to remind people if they're passing through the Martindale area to slow down, be careful. We're not sure how long they're going to be there, but they've really captured the community in a really fun way. And, well, I didn't know if I would do this, but my kids dared me to just, I don't know, where's the front of this thing? You got it on? So anyways. Yeah, like, I think they're called Martin and Dale. I don't know if they're watching right now, but we don't know how long they'll be here, but it's quite entertaining, and it's a nice distraction for the community. Thank you.
Should I tell him that he's not allowed to use props in council now, or should I wait till later? I'm glad you turned your mic off. I'm now going to make a comment about those stupid turkeys. Those are two of the most ignorant turkeys in the world. Well, I've only seen two, but they will stand in the middle of the road, and you have to just wait until they decide they're ready to move. And it will back up traffic onto the highway. Like, it's not pleasant. I'm trying to coexist with them, but ignorant. So I'm saying, yes, slow down, Counselor. I'm in full agreement, slow down, but it'd be great if they would just move along. All right. All right, seeing no other, I will look to the clerk now for the adoption of the agenda.
There are no amendments to the agenda this evening. However, the following items of additional correspondence have been placed in Council's Sugar Sync folder. The non-confidential materials will be part of Council's correspondence listing for November 20th, which is found on the city's website. Item number 1, correspondence from Up Consulting regarding documents in support of the developer request for an alternate recommendation. Item number 2, additional correspondence regarding item 7.1, 142 Queenston Street. Item 3, additional correspondence from Greg Orr regarding item 6.5, development of an invasive species management plan. Item 4, memorandum from the senior planner regarding 142 Queenston Street, change in recommended conditions for draft plan approval. And item number 5, memorandum from the senior manager, planning services regarding 142 Queenston Street, response to developers' proposed draft plan conditions.
Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to pull 6.5 for discussion.
Okay, we're coming up to that one, and it is being pulled already, so it's on the agenda. All right. So we will move on to number 3, adoption of the minutes. The council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November the 3rd. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor McPherson, Councilor Phillips. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening? Councilor Mako?
Yes, I'd like to declare on item 10.1 due to my employer.
Okay. As a reminder, councilors, you do need to submit written statements of declarations as well via the online form. Seeing no others, we'll move on to number 5, which is the motion to move consent reports, and item 6.5 has been pulled. The development of invasive species management plan has been moved from consent to discussion by Councilor Williamson. Can I have a mover for the agenda as amended? Councillor Dodge, I will look to the clerk.
Today's consent agenda has 4 items: Community and Recreation, Culture Services, and Financial Management Services, ICE for 5 pilot project. Item 6.2, Community Recreation and Culture Services 2025 St. Catharines Cultural Investment Program Funding, Round 4. Item 6.3, Community Recreation and Culture Services, Niagara Folk Arts Festival 2025 Annual Report. And item 6.4, Financial Management Services 2026 Tax Due Dates and Interim Billing Bylaw. Councillor Dodge.
Yes.
Councillor Mako.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Kushner.
Yes.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Councillor Lindell.
Yes.
Councillor Phillips.
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens.
Yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Yes.
Councillor Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Cisco.
Yes.
That's carried.
Declaration to all presenters. Council chambers in all municipalities in our country represent the seed of local democracy. The many acts that govern us understand the necessity of the collective voice when decisions are being made to grow our spaces, pass our bylaws, and to seek opinions into very complex issues, ensuring safe spaces for all in our public discourse. We recognize the right of the majority to decide, the minority to be heard, the public to have an opportunity to participate, and all participants to be treated with courtesy and respect. It is imperative that elected officials, citizens, and staff have input, and it is paramount that we listen to one another and question one another, but that we understand we do this in a way that never undermines any person's ability or their dignity in our chambers. We respect the right for everyone to have an opinion and remind the audience views of the public do not always reflect those of the Corporation of the City of St. Catharines. We will move on to 7.1, Planning and Building Services, applications to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw and for draft plan of subdivision approval, subject lands 142 Queenston Street. The purpose of this public meeting is to ensure that sufficient information is available for the public and council to understand the proposed applications to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw for draft plan of subdivision approval, subject lands 142 Queenston Street, and to provide the public with an opportunity for input before council's decision. If a specified person or public body as defined in the Planning Act or the registered owner of the land does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or written submission to council prior to council making its decision, they are not entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or written submission prior to the council decision, that person may not be added as a party to the hearing of any appeals by others without the permission of the tribunal. The public meeting will proceed as follows. Staff will explain the applications to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw and for draft plan of subdivision approval, subject lands 142 Queenston Street. The applicant will speak and the council will have an opportunity to ask questions. The agent will speak and council will have an opportunity to ask questions. Members of the public wishing to delegate were requested to register by 9 a.m. today. 6 people requested to speak. Once they have spoken, those in the gallery that would like to speak will be permitted to do so after the registered delegates have made their presentations. The deadline to submit additional written comments not previously published on the council correspondence listing was 12 p.m. today, and 5 items of correspondence were received and were placed on the November 13th council correspondence listing. 1 item of correspondence was received and placed in council sugar sync folder prior to the meeting. After all of that, the public meeting will be closed. Council will be able to ask staff questions and will consider the motion to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw and for draft plan of subdivision approval, subject lands 142 Queenston Street. The public meeting is now open, and I will call upon Alexa Cooper, the senior planner, to present.
Thank you, Mayor Cisco, and good evening to everyone, including Mayor, City Councilor, staff, and members of the public. My name is Alexa Cooper, and I'm a senior planner with the City of St. Catharines, here to present staff's recommendation for the requested official plan, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision applications for 142 Queenston Street. This image shows the location of the subject lands on the south side of Queenston Street between Oakdale Avenue and East Chester Avenue. The subject land is currently vacant, but was formerly occupied by the General Hospital and houses a hazard slope on the south side along Oakdale Avenue, which is covered by a woodland here. Here are images of the uses surrounding the site, which include Richard Pierpoint Park to the south and a range of uses to the west, north, and east, which include a medical office building, commercial uses, low-rise residential uses, and places of worship. The last plan reviewed by the city was for this property was in 2022 when an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment were received to permit 4 mixed-use buildings along Queenston Street with heights that ranged from 6 to 16 stories. This project was not finalized and the land was purchased by new owners, Vive Development, who have proposed a new concept plan for the site. This shows the new proposal for the redevelopment of the subject land. Just to orient us a little bit, Queenston Street is here at the top. We have Oakdale over to the left in the bottom of the image, as well as Westminster Church over to the east and further beyond that, East Chester Avenue. The proposal includes 9 towers, each 24 stories in height, connected by 3 podiums that range from 4 to 6 stories in height. Each tower has an associated lobby beneath at the ground floor level. There are just under 2,500 units, accompanied by just under 3,000 parking spaces within the podiums and through underground parking structures. Commercial residential flex units face Queenston Street, and there's a commercial unit proposed at the west end facing Oakdale Avenue. The proposal includes the extension of the Valley View Road up to Prince Street. The intersection at Prince and Valley View will be upgraded to a 4-way signalized intersection with crosswalks. Private access to the development is located at the west end of the site between Haynes Avenue and Vine Street. Access to the parking and loading areas for the towers are from the private road, which you can see here, and Valley View Road extension. The proposal also includes outdoor amenity space on top of the podiums, which you can see hatched in between the towers. And a civic plaza is proposed central to the site on Queenston, and a parkette space in an active use trail with a pedestrian crosswalk to improve connectivity to Richard Pierpoint Park are proposed at the rear. This is a rendering submitted by the applicant to help illustrate the design intention for the proposed buildings. This rendering is a view of the proposal from Queenston Street, and at the back you can see Richard Pierpoint Park, and Oakdale Avenue here would be to the left, East Chester to the right of the image. This shows the 9 24-story towers and their associated podiums. The draft plan of subdivision proposes 4 blocks and 1 public street extension. Block 1 in red is for the portion of the proposed development located west of Prince Street. This includes 2 of the mixed-use buildings and 6 of the 9 towers. Block 2 is in yellow and located east of Prince Street. This includes the 3rd building and the remaining 3 of 9 towers. Block 3 in blue contains the proposed trail along the rear of the development, which is proposed to be dedicated to the city. Block 4 in green is proposed for parkland purposes to serve in the development in the surrounding neighborhood. Finally, Valley View Road is proposed to be extended up to Prince Street as mentioned, as shown in purple on the proposed concept subdivision plan. The city's official plan general land use designation is neighborhood residential. A mixed use designation is present on the other side of Queenston Street. Both this site and the land across the street are located within an intensification area. Staff are supportive of increased height and density on the subject lands and support the requested change to the city's general land use plan, provided the block intended for the hazard slope and woodland are designated natural areas to recognize the environmental feature. The more detailed central planning district mapping designates the property medium-density residential. This designation permits a range of residential uses, including apartment buildings, to a maximum density of 99 units per hectare and about 6 stories in height. However, the height of the building could be increased through a special policy in place over the property if underground or structured parking and supportive greening opportunities are provided. Staff support the requested changes to the city's central district plan, provided a height restriction of 85 meters be put in place. This will keep the proposal outside of the Niagara District Airport's approach path. In addition, staff recommend the block intended for the hazard slope and woodland area are designated natural areas again to recognize the environmental features. The city's zoning bylaw zones the land's medium-density residential, or R3, with a special provision and holding provision. The R3 zone permits apartment buildings, but typically with a maximum height of 6 stories and a maximum density of 99 units per hectare. Special Provision 82 includes additional permissions for ground floor commercial and office uses, along with a 12-story height limit where underground parking is provided. The holding provision requires the applicants to obtain environmental clearances for soil contamination prior to development. The applicants are currently in the process of cleaning up a portion of the site. Staff are supportive of increased height and density on the subject lands and support the requested M3 zone change, provided staff's recommendations are implemented. These recommended changes include special provision modifications as per staff's report, having the G1 zone over the environmental features, keeping the holding provision 1 on the property, and introducing a new holding provision to ensure safe and comfortable wind conditions. To provide a visual of how staff's recommended special provisions would affect the proposed development, I have a few images that depict where the buildings would need to be altered to comply if approved as recommended. This image shows how the recommended setbacks would require a few of the towers in the eastern podium to be further back, set back next to property lines. The intention of the recommended setbacks are to secure improved transitioning between the proposed 24-story development and the existing 2-story buildings to the west and east. Setbacks to the tower from Queenston and Valley View are intended to provide a more comfortable pedestrian realm by setting the taller stories further back from their respective podiums, which would reduce massing and potentially assist with alleviating wind impacts on public streets. Here's an example of the current transition conditions requested at the west end of the site. Staff's recommended provisions would require the tower to be set back 10 meters from the property line, which is about 6 meters further back than where it currently sits. This image shows how staff's recommended minimum 25-meter tower separation in this pink-purple color would require a few of the towers to reduce in size. Again, the intention of the recommended tower separation is to improve livability and privacy for future residents, support the mitigation of massing, wind, and shadow impacts associated with the proposal, and to improve access to sky views along the Queenston Street frontage. Again, here's an example of the current separation conditions between the towers. Staff's recommended provisions would require facing exterior walls, so not where they're kitty corner, but where they directly face each other, of the proposed towers to be set back 25 meters from each other. Included in the bottom left-hand corner of this slide are additional provisions staff recommend that require no design changes to the proposed development. The maximum floor plate width and size are recommended to support the mitigation of wind, shadow, and massing impacts. The maximum height is to ensure the building, again, is not permitted to encroach into the approach path from the Niagara District Airport that's over the property. And in addition, staff are supportive of the requested 0.8 resident spaces per unit and 0.05 visitor spaces per unit parking rate due to the site's high level of public and active transportation available for the site, future residents' access to a variety of day-to-day needs through these routes, and the site's proximity to the downtown area. Staff recommend holding provision 1 remain on the site as there is known contamination present. The H1 provision requires the applicant to complete and submit a phase 1 and 2 environmental site assessment to the city for review and acceptance. This documentation must demonstrate that the soil is clean for residential use. If the documents prove the site is clean, the hold can be lifted. To date, staff have received a phase 1 ESA and remedial plan, but no completed phase 2 ESA showing the site has been appropriately cleaned for residential use. Progress has been made on site, but it has not progressed to a stage where the removal of contaminants can be confirmed. Holding provision 31 requires the applicants to satisfy city staff that safe and comfortable wind conditions are present for the pedestrian realm. This slide depicts undesirable wind conditions that can result from taller buildings and how they can be mitigated through the inclusion of podiums. Staff's recommended zoning provisions will ensure there is a podium around each tower to help break up downwashing, downdrafting, and funneling wind effects and improve wind conditions at grade for pedestrians. There are 5 locations that were identified as unsafe in the provided wind study. The zoning requested by the applicant would permit a building form that could further worsen these conditions. Staff want to ensure that these conditions can be mitigated with appropriate measures before the buildings are constructed. This may necessitate modifications to the built form, such as larger podium setbacks to reduce those downwashing effects. The hold can be lifted once safe and comfortable wind conditions have been demonstrated within the pedestrian realm. This holding provision may be lifted in phases as the development is completed. As part of the public consultation process for this application, an Engage page was created for the community to submit questions and comments. Social media posts were made through the city's socials to let the community know about the engagement page, the open house, and tonight's public meeting. The open house was held at Connaught Public School on October 8th and had around 100 people in attendance. The feedback received to date has included support of the redevelopment of the site, with concerns regarding specific items such as servicing capacity, traffic, compatibility, soil stability, parking, and affordability. Staff are satisfied servicing and traffic can be adequately addressed, provided staff's recommended draft plan conditions are approved. These conditions require the upsizing of a portion of the existing sanitary sewer to accommodate increased flows and the construction of the Valley View Road extension and associated four-way traffic signal to improve anticipated traffic conditions prior to construction of the proposed buildings. Staff are of the opinion higher density on this site is appropriate given its strategic location, access to public transit, and its location within an intensification area. Staff also share concerns with the proposed built form and have recommended modified setbacks and tower standards to improve compatibility with surrounding uses. The Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority reviewed the slope stability study and are satisfied that there will be no impacts on the global stability of the slope. Staff are satisfied there will be adequate parking for the proposal due to the high level of public and active transportation available for the site, future residents' access to a variety of day-to-day needs through those routes, and the site's proximity to the downtown area. Planning staff encourage the provision of affordable housing within proposed developments, but do not have the authority to require affordable housing. The city, however, does encourage the inclusion of affordable housing units through various incentive programs that we have available. Overall, no objections were received from circulated departments. Development Engineering, MPCA, Transportation Services, and the Niagara region recommended conditions be included with the draft plan of subdivision for items relating to servicing, the hazard slope, the road network, and the woodland on the property. Staff have included these in our list of draft conditions. Recommended conditions of draft plan approval include design and cost of the multi-use trail and associated pedestrian crosswalk, the design, cost, and grading of the parquet block, the design, cost, and construction of the Valley View Road extension and traffic signal, the design, cost, and construction of the sanitary service upsizing, conditions relating to the other woodland, the hazard slope, cash in lieu of parkland dedication, and other conditions that are typical of a draft plan of subdivision. In conclusion, staff have evaluated the proposal against provincial and local policies and are of the opinion the proposal meets the intent of these policies subject to staff's recommendation outlined in the report. Ultimately, staff's recommendation and draft plan conditions will help to ensure improved livability for future residents, improve shadow impacts for the surrounding neighborhood, safe wind conditions, safe soil conditions, a functional road network, secure public park space, secure required infrastructure, and ensure that development is paying for development. Therefore, staff recommend that council approve the proposed official plan and zoning bylaw and draft plan of subdivision as modified by staff. The amendments as modified are consistent with the provincial planning statement and conform to the Niagara official plan and the Garden City plan, subject to the recommended draft plan conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper, for the presentation. At this time, I will call upon Stephen Litt, the applicant, to present. Mr. Litt, welcome. The lectern is yours.
Again, dreary November day. I was here in the spring talking about the brownfield. Thanks for having me again. Stephen Litt, Vive Development. Proud to be still building roughly 1,250 rental homes a year in Ontario. It's a tough time. We can talk about that. I'm here to present the case. Planner Dave will speak after me. I'm here with Mark and Tristan from my office. Here really for dialogue. When I sit back down, if there's any further dialogue discussion, I'd love to have that. You guys seem like a really warm bunch of folks that love humor, as do I, so let's get into it without further ado. A little bit about growth in St. Catharines. So this is from the Garden City Plan. So in 26 years from now, this plan contemplates 18,000 new units in St. Catharines. Typically, domestic migration has put pressure on housing in St. Catharines. I suspect that's going to change over time when the economy picks back up and pressures from the GTA ensue. Roughly speaking, and sort of on a shorter term, by 2031, St. Catharines, the target that the council has endorsed is roughly looking for another 11,000 units, which is a big number. By 2031, this project could deliver roughly 1,000 new units, realistically, with the right incentive and in partnership with the municipality. A little bit about rental growth in St. Catharines. So in the past 7 years, rents increased by an unbelievable 6% on average. End of the pandemic, we saw this throughout Ontario. Between 2022 and 2023, there was a 16% increase in average rents. So that alludes to an extreme and severe rental supply constraint. In 2023, so tail end of the pandemic, the gap between old rents, so pick an older apartment building, the gap between old existing rents and new rents in the same building, same amenities, et cetera, was over 25%. Almost 40% of renter households in St. Catharines live in unaffordability. So I think we can agree that there's a need for rental housing. Why does St. Catharines need more rental housing? So I mentioned pressures from the GTA. St. Catharines has a slightly older demographic than the balance of Ontario, so new rental homes attract new youth, new families, new people come together to form households. And we believe that 142 Queenston is very key to addressing this shortage. So specifically about Vive, so how can we fill the gaps? So we only build rental, we don't build condominium. By increasing the supply of mid-market rental housing. So we can't pretend to be a housing provider at the scale we are, privately owned as a corporation, and build deeply, deeply affordable housing. We can build mid-market affordable, which we can get into in a minute. By increasing the supply of rental homes, you allow for new housing mobility. So when you build any housing unit, be it a big fancy house, a deeply affordable unit, you allow that new housing unit to be consumed by a newcomer, by someone else in the housing continuum. So when we build mid-market, it allows people to move up, down, throughout, right? There's people currently in deeply affordable housing in St. Catharines that probably, would like a new apartment, slightly bigger space, want to have a child, want to get married, et cetera, right? And so right now, there's just not that supply. So there's we can look at the numbers as we alluded to, but there's a real mobility that comes with new rental supply that we see throughout our projects, which is awesome. Where possible, wherever we can, which we'll lead to in a minute, we really like to incorporate anything in that's energy efficient. That energy efficiency gets passed on to our residents. And why I really get excited and why I get really excited about this project in particular is when we can think out of the box and stop thinking about the traditional sort of adversarial relationship between developer and municipality, we can come together and we can talk numbers and shop and really put together things that get projects built quicker, faster, that have good community benefits. So the discussion items. So as usual, we can never entirely agree with staff's position. That's totally fair. What I would say about our plan is that it is one that is not, it's not an exercise in paper, it's not a financial exercise in building a building that the city will be happy about just to get approval for it never to be built. We're talking about getting this project in the ground. We've spent $2.5 million since I stood here in the spring. So I'll allude to these again. Perhaps we can have a discussion afterwards. But so the plan that you saw has sort of us working from page left to page right. Each phase is roughly between 250 to 285 units. That's the right size of project based on our understanding of the rental marketplace in St. Catharines. If you go bigger, CMHC, who's really important to financing these projects, says it's too big. If we go smaller, then we can't really afford to build the community benefits in the project. So there's been a lot of intention in the plan. So we believe that 9 towers is a good fit. Yes, perhaps the buildings, according to design guidelines, are a little bit too close together, but they're staggered so that there's no overlook between each of the phases. So we believe that, actual housing activity and supply is more important than meeting the letter of the law in the urban design manual. So we're asking, so we totally get Valley View Road and the Parkland block are absolutely key to this project. We just disagree on the timing. Again, we want to build this, so we can't build the road in the middle of the site on a portion of the site that won't be cleaned up until we've built the first 4 towers and we've cleaned this up. So there's a lot of orchestrating of construction behind the scenes. So we're not disagreeing to provide that roadway. It's just when it gets built. And I don't want to get into these in an excruciating amount of detail, but those are the big ones for sure. So next slide, please. So this project has been, it's a challenging one. I mean, this is the 3rd or maybe 4th time it's been in receivership since the hospital served the community. The site's got poor soils, which we can engineer solutions to with driving piles. And of course, we bought the site with a half-demolished hospital where the hospital was sort of pushed into the foundation. So it's important to identify that like this is a really tough one, and it's a hole in the middle of the city which needs to be reinvented. So community benefits. So again, alluded to what I get really excited about in these projects. So on this project, we would like to offer sort of the following. So all the buildings, so that's all 9 towers, be 25% better than National Building Code. So what does that mean in real life? That effectively means that the tenants' utility bills are decreased by roughly $40 a month. What can people spend that $40 a month on? That's almost $500 a year on children, on recreation, on groceries, on improvement of their life. So energy efficiency is really a way to create affordable homes. On the topic of affordability, so we can pledge to build 10%, so that's roughly 1 tower, not quite. And again, it's not one entire building, it would be dispersed amongst the project at 30% of median household income per St. Catharines. So real numbers, that's roughly $250 less than the market. So the energy costs, and we do this in all of our projects, on the 9 towers will roughly cost an additional $9.2 million. The affordability, so if the rents, again, buildings are valued based on their income, so if the rents are less, they're worth a little less. So on the 10% of the suites, that's roughly a decrease in value by $19 million. So total, we're proposing to again, and working with the municipality, probably not here today, I think we're talking about the planning stuff, let's get through that first, but we would like to offer that community benefit package roughly, it's $30 million to the community to try and get a large number of these projects in the ground next year. So I've talked lots. I hope there's questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Litt. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for preserving the archway. I know the hospital was thrilled with that, and the Mac School of Nursing was thrilled. I guess you had a slide, I'm not sure what number the slide was, but it had a listing of all the different things that you have questions about. Okay, so there it is right there. I'm wondering, would it make sense for us to, as a council, to maybe refer that back to staff to come back with some answers before we move forward tonight?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as usual, subdivision, draft conditions, and comments came out very, shortly before this meeting, so there wasn't a fullness of time to get through them all, but that seems like a fair assertion.
And perhaps, like, how quick would you want that turned, like, to come back to council, like 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, through the presenter. Sir, I guess my conception of what a community benefit is a little bit different. Your community benefits are energy efficiency. I wonder if you could just elaborate on what you're seeing as the community benefits.
Yeah, so a lot of developers will try to build increased amenity areas and commercial at grade. Like we're about housing first, right? So affordability, getting that rental rates down through actual just 30% of median income. but also, total household expenditure on rent. So that includes rent, utilities, right? So if that utility bill comes down because the building's built better, i.e. more insulation, air source heat pumps, et cetera, that brings utility costs down. In this day and age, all new rental housing is built plus electricity, plus water, plus heat. I should have commented on that, right? When people pay their own utilities, that's the greatest sort of form of energy conservation, because you wake up and you're like, oh crud, I'm paying for that light I turned on when I went to the office, right? So when those bills come down, it adds to the level of affordability, so.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to see the energy efficiency and the reduced greenhouse emissions. The stumbling block for me is just the massing, the size of the, and the height of the towers. And we know that shorter towers, 10 and 12-story towers, tend to be generally more efficient. I just wonder why the necessity to build such high towers.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard this a number of times. People have this misconception that, a smaller building is more efficient. I would personally argue the scale of the building really doesn't matter from an energy consumption perspective. What does matter is when you have a larger building, you can amortize the cost of a more efficient boiler plant, air source heat pumps, geothermal, whatever it may be, over the number of suites. So, example, when you build a house and your house has got one furnace, one hot water heater, one roof, right, one air conditioner. When you build an apartment building, you generally have one of the same, perhaps one or two redundancy, but you can invest in much higher efficiency equipment when that's the case. So,
I guess the argument for the shorter ones tends to be that you've got when you get taller, you've got longer runs for everything, for utilities.
And you have you have more insulation on the pipes distributing the water, more insulation, but that's really not the crux of it. It's really your your boiler system, right? That's the big energy pig. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Ratzlaff.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Thanks for the presentation. Just two questions. The first has concerns kind of the street life along Queenston, but also you're building that multi-use path along the back, and then you have a road that cuts through. So the commercial space that you have, I'm assuming it runs the length of Queenston Street. And is there more commercial that's going to be on that street that's being added in the behind the buildings, or is it just on the front facing Queenston Street?
Yeah, it's just the front, and it wraps around some of the, call it the subdivision road we're creating, and like the internal private road where we can, right? Sometimes if you look at the plan, there's like gyms and amenity areas and lobbies around those. So, the main floor along Queenston will be built sort of 4.5, or I think we're seeing 5 meters. So it's almost 2 floors, so it allows for commercial down the road. Personally, right now, I don't think there's much demand for that. So those will be sort of a live-work unit townhouse for the time being, but they have that space so that in the future, if there's a need, if there's a demand, rather, the market can sort of pay for it, a small grocery store or convenience store or something along those lines, then it can be converted, right? So you build in that adaptability.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's great. I think more eyes on that street would, I think, help everyone. And if we can cultivate an active street life along that stretch of Queenston streets, particularly considering there's a school kind of just across, I think that would benefit everybody. The one point that you have up there, so the second question concerns the point about the environmental holding provision. And so I'm just curious, we have heard in the past, and we know that there's some contamination on that site. You're working on cleaning it up. Why, though, the request to remove the holding provision from your end?
Yeah, we're asking to, I believe, and Dave can confirm, but just to remove it on the 4 towers or the site that we've cleaned up. We just like to not have to deal with all these holding provisions and really just focus on getting the thing in the ground, but that's not a sword we would die on. I think we can live with coming back to council on the environmental, yeah.
But we're committed to cleaning it up so the folks are safe who'd be living there, yeah, okay. All right, awesome, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It indicated that you have a stage 1 environmental submitted and accepted. Yep. Are you in the process of getting phase 2 done?
Yeah, we simply don't have a phase 2 because I think we're like 2 weeks away from getting rid of the last bit of contamination on the Force 4 towers worth. So we just can't finalize our phase 2 report until that's done. It's just it's a matter of timing. So
Great.
that's why we put together that remedial plan that showed our progress to date, hoping that would appease staff, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your build-out plan? It's a really exciting plan you have. In all my years in St. Catharines, I don't think I've seen anything like this. But you're not going to put all 9 of them up, start at the same time, obviously. So what's your build-out plan? How long is it going to take? We're glad to see that you're hoping to get started next year.
For sure.
But
It's going to take 1 year, the whole thing start to end. No. So realistically, each tower is roughly 2 years, call it 22 to 28 months. The idea is that based on what we understanding of the market in St. Catharines last fall, which so much has changed with employment and Yahoo south of the border, et cetera, we think that there's still that ability to rent a building in a year. So that's why we like the size of building that we're proposing. Each phase would overlap roughly 6 months. So if you call it 2 years to occupy the first building, the second building overlaps by 6. So we're talking about a 10 to 14 year endeavor. If it takes longer, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me the way the world works these days. So
okay.
I'll be old and gray, man.
Probably not all of us will be here when you come back to celebrate your last build, but anyways, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mako.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the presenter, I found your one slide really interesting that showed the age distribution of Niagara's population, just the increasing proportion of seniors as we forecasted out. And I'm just wondering if you thought about seniors' needs in the design of these buildings. With this many units, you're talking about a lot more walkers, wheelchairs, scooters, and I've seen some apartment buildings that maybe didn't consider that well enough, and now the lobby's full of scooters. And so just, thinking ahead, has any of that been thought about in the design, just what a senior-friendly environment might look like?
So the average unit size here versus what we built in Kitchener is about like 80 square feet bigger. So generally speaking, the demographic, older folks want a little bit more space. My comment is always like sell the sectional from your bungalow and get some real size furniture, but so larger units. Our parking ratio here is, I think, sort of appropriate for the neighborhood. There's a ton of bike parking, so bike parking would double as scooter, although that's an interesting conclusion you've come to on that. But I mean, new buildings are like entirely like you could there's wheelchair accessibility top to bottom. And there's a barrier-free requirement of 15% in the building, so larger our bathrooms, et cetera. I know St. Catharines in staff's affordable housing accelerator fund has this incentive program to build accessible units, which I think is a great one. It reduces the building permit fee, which we took a deep dive on. So I wouldn't be surprised if we apply for that. So. I know that that's something that the community asked for, without a doubt, was more accessible suites. So
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. One of your slides, I don't know which one it is, but it's about the growth that's expected here. And you're stating that there's going to be 17,000 new jobs. Can you give me some information on what type of jobs those are?
that's a great question. That's pulled from the Garden City plan or the housing needs assessment. I do not know the specifics of that stat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up.
Okay, thank you.
It's all good.
Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Certainly an ambitious project. My question is just, it looks like staff have addressed some of the, there's some close proximities to, I guess it's the building on the corner there. I think there's a church and a housing building there. Have you had any conversations at all with them about the vision? And I know like the close proximity, it sounds like staff are working with you on kind of moving it a bit further away. I wonder if you just touch on that.
Yeah, so to the page right, if you look at the podium, it actually steps back so that you can see the side of the historically significant church. And yeah, we deal with the builders next door often. They're sort of using some of our layout on area for fill. So I don't think there's any concern there. We've spoken to our neighbor to the left. I haven't heard expressed concerns about that. You know, practically speaking, when a podium is an extra 5, 10, 15 feet away, I hate to say it, but like it doesn't really change things when it's, you know, 5 or 6 floors. What I think is more important personally is, you know, a cost-effective, economically viable project. That if we, you know, smush all the buildings together and then ask for them to be all further apart, what'll happen is all the buildings will get bigger. They'll end up just, you know, you push the buildings down and you spread them out so that, yes, they might be, you know, 20, 25 meters apart, but then you'll have all the buildings looking at one another, right? If you look at, if you pull up that plan, you can see the staggering. So yes, a few of our buildings have that issue, but the big part of the, you know, where there's 4 towers, they're staggered, and we think that's you wake up, you look at your window, you're not staring at, you know, you don't have this sort of Soviet-era Russian sort of, you know, like situation, these giant slabs. There's some variation in the different types of building, which we think is important, and our team does too, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It's very exciting to see something happening on that property. Just a general question about the build, not any sort of major detail needed, but I know that there's a lot of, or the federal government has funding opportunities for people who are looking at modular building and that sort of thing. Is that part of the plan, or is that part of your thinking? Just, it's more curious than detail.
No, modular is a big part of Mr. Carney's plan. I mean, I think, so wherever possible, we're doing modular, right? Okay. So I suspect, I'm not sure, so if you go to Kitchener, we're closer to some of the modular housing providers, so Stubby's precast, so they effectively, all the floor and wall panels inside and out are built in a factory, swung up. That's sort of like the ultimate current scale of modular. Modular doesn't work well in, like true modular, has never worked well in North America or Europe due to, you know, every site is different. Example, right? We have you know, tough soils here, we're driving piles, et cetera. Urban design pressures, you know, want taller buildings, not, so every time we design a high-rise project, it's like literally clean the slate and start over again.
Gotcha.
And when you take that mentality and you try to build it down to modular, it just simply doesn't work. What does work is low-rise housing in modular, right? And there's some big moves happening in that space. So you hit a bit of a passion point. There's a lot of things we can do differently in construction. We simply haven't done that in Canada because it's just so darn difficult to build here with Mother Nature, the climate, right. Changing building codes, you know, changing planning expectations. Just no one's really had that opportunity to really dig into it. I think it works well on small scale, low rise. So. Okay,
thank you. So you just with the stubby concrete.
Sure.
Does that shorten the timelines for builds, or does it leave it basically the same?
So we're doing it in Kitchener right now both ways. You know, typical pouring concrete versus precast. So if you have a building of scale and the right crew, you can form the building just as fast as you can build precast. And the problem with both of those is we don't have the ability to finish it at the same rate. So what you end up having is you have the tower going up fast and then you're picking away at the finishing. So there's other bottlenecks in the process. So it's not necessarily always the best. Again, it's if we could finish more of the space in factories, that would, you know, we would take 30% of the timeline. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you, Councillor. And seeing no more questions, thank you, Mr. Litt, for your presentation.
No problem. Thank you.
This time I'll call upon David Galbraith, the president of UP Consulting, to present.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, Councillor. Yes, Mr. Litt, if you don't mind coming back. Councillor Kushner.
Thank you. The Developer indicated that his preference would be 9 stories versus the city recommendation of 7 stories. How many units would that, what's the differential in the number of units?
So, Councillor, I think it was 9 towers as opposed to 7 towers.
Right, yes.
Okay, so the question would be, what would be the differential in units between those two possibilities?
In housing units, yes.
Mr. Litt?
Yeah, I mean, so we had this discussion with staff, so you can reconfigure the buildings to have more units, just less by 2. And so the buildings, are 350, 360 units, which are too big for this marketplace to be cost effective in balancing the time it takes to rent a building up. So that would be my, yeah. You could also pluck 2 buildings out of it and then you reduce the development. It's not a simple answer. Yeah.
Okay, and a follow-up question, what impact would this have on the rent differential?
Yeah, I mean, we're very comfortable with the size of the building, the time it'll take to lease the buildings up. If you reduce the unit count, say by 500 units, I'd have to report back. I don't think that's a desirable outcome in the end of the day. I think right now we want more real housing than less. So our land cost goes up roughly, right by, so. Again,
thank you.
I need a spreadsheet in front of me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Kushner. Thank you, Mr. Litt again.
Thank you.
For clarity, I think everybody should be aware, everything in the report is referring to the 9 towers that's been proposed. All right, at this time now, Mr. Galbraith, President of Up Consulting, to present.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Dave Galbraith, and I'm a registered professional planner, the president of Up Consulting, here today on behalf of the applicant. Thank you, Alexa, for your overview of the presentation, and Stephen for providing some details on the proposal. Can I drive or? Nope, got it. Okay, we're good. So tonight I'll provide council with an overview of the site, its context, and the proposed development applications. As you would have seen in our council package this evening, following our review of the staff recommendation report, we are very pleased to see a favorable recommendation, but do have a number of outstanding concerns with the proposed draft plan conditions, as well as the zoning regulations being recommended by staff. To that end, we put forward an alternate set of draft plan conditions, as well as alternate zoning regulations, which I will speak to later on. Next slide, please. So I won't spend too much time on the site or its context, given Alexa's very fulsome review of the property. But the site, of course, is 142 Queenston Street, which was the former St. Catharines Hospital site, located just east of downtown. The site itself is located just north of Richard Pierpoint Park, along a stretch of Queenston that contains a mix of uses at various densities, as you would have seen in Alexa's presentation. The site itself has been vacant since the closure and relocation of the hospital, and as you know, there have been multiple development applications which have never materialized since that time. Next slide, please. As you'll see on this slide, the applicant is proposing the comprehensive redevelopment of the site to include 2,443 units, a very specific number, between 9 apartment towers. Each of these towers are proposed to have a maximum height of 24 stories. The current plans propose nearly 3,000 parking stalls provided in underground and podium levels of the buildings, and the units are proposed as rental, which are in deep need in the community, as Stephen has spoken to. In addition to vehicular parking, approximately 1,000 bike parking spaces are proposed within the development, and a new multi-use trail, which you can see on the south side of the podium, extending from the Valley View extension out to Oakdale Road. Next slide, please. On the site plan, you can see the alignment of the proposed buildings and accesses within the development and connecting to the public realm. The proposal contemplates the eventual extension of Valley View Road to Queenston Street following the development of the first few phases. The towers on the site have been positioned to provide a diversity in form incorporate staggering and step backs, and to minimize overlook between buildings. Go back if you can. Thank you so much. The central block of the development contemplates 4 compact towers in a staggered orientation. While these towers do not achieve a typical 25 meters of separation between them, which is a baseline standard for tower separation, this orientation is desirable as there is virtually no overlook between the separate towers, and it provides for a logical layout of rooftop amenity space between the buildings as well. Access to the development will be provided at various points, as you can see on the screen. The first few towers to the west will have a primary private access off of Queenston Street. Later phases will connect to the proposed Valley View Road extension to the east. Along the southern limit of the 2 westerly blocks, a drive aisle is proposed for vehicular access, which will eventually connect to the Valley View Road extension, as well as the multi-use trail. Next slide, please. So Alexa, I think, has shown these renderings as well, so maybe we can just flip through these quickly, but this is the vantage point of the proposed development from the north looking south towards the park. Next slide. This is looking west along Queenston Road, looking towards downtown. Next, please. This is the rear of the proposed development. You can see the multi-use trail along the back of the site, as well as the small parkland block proposed in the southeast corner. Next slide. And this is another view of the rear of the development, looking again to the west. Next slide, please. The next couple of slides provide a high-level summary of the proposed development applications before council this evening. This includes a site-specific official plan amendment to redesignate the majority of the land's mixed use, with the park and wooded area and slope being proposed as parkland and green space designation. Next slide, please. A corresponding zoning bylaw amendment has been advanced to rezone the bulk of the site high-density mixed use and establish site-specific regulations tailored to the development concept with regards to yards, parking space, tower setbacks, and a proposal to rezone the park block and environmental areas and slope, again, as parkland and open space. One of the site-specific requests is to permit a parking ratio of 0.8 for residential uses and 0.05 for visitor parking. I did want to note to council that the current plans contemplate, again, close to 3,000 parking spaces, which is closer to 1.25 parking spaces per unit. And that's on the current plans. The rationale for the lower parking ratio requested is to provide flexibility in the long-term build-out of the site, so that the actual parking that's provided on the property is appropriate and adequate, but not too much for the development itself. And then finally, a draft plan of subdivision application has been advanced to subdivide the lands into multiple development parcels, convey the future road extension, and to delineate and protect the park block and natural areas. Next slide, please. So as part of our complete application for the OPA zone change and draft plan, a planning justification report and urban design brief was submitted outlining planning rationale for the proposed project. I'm not going to go through all of these points here. But it's our opinion that the development represents the efficient and logical use of the lands, supports the cleanup of a large vacant contaminated site with a very prominent location within the city, and that the design and the site-specific regulations are appropriate from an urban design standpoint. Next slide, please. As mentioned, we have reviewed the staff recommendation report before you this evening and are very pleased to see a supportive staff recommendation. Notwithstanding, we have identified a number of concerns with regard to both the draft plan of subdivision conditions as well as the proposed zoning regulations. With regards to the subdivision itself, we note that the drafted conditions would require the subdivision that the road extension to be built and conveyed to the municipality prior to the issuance of a building permit for the superstructure of the residential use. Our concern is that functionally this would delay the start of the residential construction for what could be multiple years, whereas the applicant is looking to proceed with the initial tower in the spring of 2026. Logistically, the build-out of the road extension creates some challenges as well, and would create, in our view, some issues with regards to the staging of construction, access to the phases that are under construction as well. So as part of our draft plan conditions, we have recommended that the first 5 towers could go ahead before the extension is actually built and conveyed to the municipality. To address these concerns, an alternate set of draft plan conditions has been submitted, which was included in your council package. Likewise, we've reviewed the proposed zoning regulations and did note some concern with some of the proposed regulations, including the requirement for 25-meter tower-to-tower separation, which would certainly impact the siting of buildings on the site, and other alternate setback requirements which would dictate a significant redesign of the project. With regard to the 25-meter separation, again, we feel that the staggering of the buildings is appropriate as it minimizes overlook. And then the 2 buildings on the far west of the site are spaced about 22 meters. And looking to other municipalities, the city of Waterloo, for instance, does require 22 meters between towers. So it's not a significant reduction for the two bigger towers that are actually primarily facing each other. To address some of our concerns with regard to the proposed zoning regulations, an alternate set of zoning regulations has also been submitted to the municipality and made available to you this evening. At this point, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to delegate, and am available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Galbraith, for the presentation. Are there any questions of council? All right, seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation. At this time, I will call upon Robert Lambert to speak. Mr. Lambert, the lectern is yours. Okay. Just pass these to the clerk right there. That's perfect.
I'm going to just read this and get us over as soon as I can. Oh, boy. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. I'll be as quick as I can. My name is Robert Lambert. Like I said, I live at 29 Eastchester, which is just around the corner from the site. And so I see it every day, and I know what's going on there. I have a few questions and proposals for about the site. Now to change, okay, number one. Now, 2 years ago, there was a proposal for a lot less than the 16-story, 40 townhouses for 1,100 units. And I just wonder why this has been doubled within 2 years. Now, is this something directed by the government of Ontario, which they told us in the last meeting it was? So it said, and services. Upon review of, I went on the site and found all the drawings and calculations. I saw in the services, there was water, fire, sewage, and storm. And was there calculations done that for services that were served the site before? Like just to compare what has to be done, what has to be added. I didn't see any gas or hydro calculations. So that's one thing I wasn't sure about. And like I say, I didn't see that. And the traffic studies, I sort of question this, adding 3,000 vehicles to that area. All the streets in that whole area over maybe 100 years old, they're very small. My street is one-way street, and we're lucky to get down that street sometimes. So I just wonder if that was taken into consideration with the traffic. They say it's going to be all right. Well, driving around now is very difficult, so we find that. And I wonder about the environmental studies. I have a mistake. I thought there was one, but I didn't see anything from the Ministry of Environment, so I don't know if they've been looked at. And, okay, the upgraded services, I think was answered, will be paid by the owner, or if they have to, hydro or gas. And one thing I haven't seen, are the police and fire departments been involved in this? Because with the addition of traffic and people, that's going to be quite a load on our services for them. And I think you've also answered the types of units will be mixed and all that, so that's gone through. And lighting we're sort of concerned with. You got 9 stories of lights just we just wonder how that's impacted the surrounding area. I asked that, who will benefit financially? That'll be the owner, of course. So, now how would this, it's a nice, looks like be nice, but the whole area around where we live are, blue collar, it's the best way to call it. Will this affect our taxes, where our taxes start being bumped up because this is a nice, modern building type area? So that was there. And my last concern is, right now there's construction going on at 180 Queenston, Westminster Church. They use our street as an equipment drop-off. So you see these big, huge, and it's been done with the the hospital site right now. So both sites are using our street as equipment drop-off. You can imagine these big, huge trucks with these big cranes coming off, and they unload it, they block our street. And I thought when you have a construction site, you take this into consideration. Well, we have drivers there, they just don't care where they park. I had one guy told me, he says, I could park where I want because I'm working for them. So that's basically all I had. I know it's not much, but that's all the time I have. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lambert. Are there any questions for Mr. Lambert?
Oh, okay.
Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm wondering if we can just refer these comments to staff who can perhaps respond to the presentation, Mr. Mayor. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to look to, oh, there we go, the planner.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Lambert. I took notes while you were talking, so if I miss anything, let me know. I can't really speak to why the proposal has been doubled. That would be at the discretion of the developer and the application that they chose to put forth. The government of Ontario didn't necessarily direct this specific development to happen, but they are encouraging more housing units being built faster.
Now, that was a statement made at the first of that meeting, says, we're doing this because the government says we have to or something. That's what I understood back then, 2 years ago, so.
I am going to jump in for a moment. The reason why is because that was a different developer. So that was the previous owner, the site went into receivership, it was purchased.
Yeah.
And so that's why the development application doesn't look the same. Completely different developer, different process.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thanks for the clarification, Mr. Mayor. As for gas and hydro calculations, the city doesn't do those because we don't provide those services. That would be Hydro One.
The engineer should do that. They did the water, sanitary, and storm.
Yeah, so we provide city services through water services, sewer services, stormwater management, but we don't provide gas and hydro services. Those are Enbridge typically or Hydro One. So they've been circulated, the applications, and they'll do the necessary calculations to determine what kind of capacity they need for gas or hydroelectric to service the buildings. And that'll be addressed usually in more detail through the site plan control process, which would follow this if council decides to approve the application tonight.
Okay. Is that why there's no mechanical, electrical drawings done yet?
Yeah, through the mayor to Mr. Lambert, that's correct.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what. Okay.
When staff put together their recommendation, I have a note here if we took traffic into consideration. Our transportation services department was consulted. And this is why staff are recommending conditions that the Valley View Road extension be done up front to make sure that people have an option to use a signalized intersection to get in and out of there. A bit more history behind that recommendation. The private intersection that's proposed by the developer fails after the second tower is constructed and occupied. So this is why staff are proposing the private road extend out and the Valley View Road extension be constructed with the signalized intersection so people aren't experiencing excessive delay times trying to turn left, and they have the option of using the signalized intersection to get out of there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For environmental studies, there was a technical memo done evaluating the trees at the rear of the property.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, that was done by an arborist, not an ecologist or anything like that. But in working with the region, the city tried to understand what would typically come out of an environmental impact study. And it was determined that typically this is what's called an other woodland feature, so it's regionally significant as opposed to provincially significant. Usually what that EIS would recommend is that there be a woodland enhancement plan so that some of the invasive species be removed and replaced with more native plants to improve the health and integrity of the feature. In addition to an ecological monitoring plan over the next 3 years to make sure that its health doesn't decline, that the trees take, everything looks good. And those conditions were included in the draft plan conditions that staff have recommended to council. For if the police and fire department are involved in this, not typically at this higher level. We have circulated our fire departments. They didn't provide any comments on the application, but at time of site plan, which again would follow should council decide to approve tonight, we would circulate to our fire departments the application. I don't believe the police are typically involved in that circulation, but I don't see any harm in making them aware that there may be more units coming online on this property, or that it's going to be a construction site for a few years, things like that. But that's usually when those departments get involved.
Oh, I see, okay.
For your concerns with lighting, so again, through the site plan, so if you're noticing a trend, site plan is a much more technical, detailed process where we start figuring out exactly where things are going to be placed, as opposed to this where it's like, here's the concept, here's how we would implement it. So site plan, lighting, they have to submit a photometric plan that would prove no light trespass onto neighboring properties. So that would again be reviewed through the site plan process and make sure that the light doesn't spill over onto neighboring properties.
Yeah, that's a concern we have, yeah.
Yeah. As far as taxes go, I don't know if I can speak to that with expertise. So I might see if someone else around the horseshoe would want to answer that question potentially. And for 180 Queenston development, so the stacked townhouses that are going in behind Westminster Church, you said they're using Eastchester as equipment drop-off, and what will this development do? We'll create a construction management plan through, again, the site plan process that will detail where these things can and cannot occur to figure out what can be anticipated for where equipment drop-off will happen, how it'll be accessed, things of that nature, where the equipment will be located when they're not in use. The benefit of this site is, at least for the first few stages, it is very large, so there is a lot of room for them to locate things that are not on your street.
Yeah, it's been done already, so that's, but I've talked with staff here at the city and they've been very helpful. I've sent them pictures and emails so they know what's going on, and I think they've come back and talked to the others, but they have, there have been some equipment dropped off for the hospital site. We'll call it the hospital site.
If you want to talk about what's going on with 180 Queenston, you have my email, and I'm happy to help you out. But for 142, that's kind of the process that will occur.
Yeah, so.
Did I answer all of your questions?
Yeah,
okay,
better
great.
than I could present it, so. Anyway,
all right.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Townsend still.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
sorry,
Mayor, and I thank you to staff. I wasn't expecting it to be in live time. I should have clarified to do it offline, but Mr. Sorry about that. Mr. Lambert, though, has been very kind to bring in and write this to us. I'm wondering if it'd be appropriate, maybe staff can, I know that's a lot of information to take in. Can we get a copy of that written over to Mr. Lambert, just so he has all those answers so that he can go back and look at how the city is addressing the questions that he does have? I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lambert.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll now call upon Lori Littleton to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, staff, and other guests. I'm here to speak in favor of the proposed development at 142 Queenston Street. And after 12 years, I'm thrilled that the Meriton and Queenston community is finally looking at an actual development for this site through Vive Developments. After the hospital closed in March 2013, it sat derelict for many years. I shouldn't have to, we've talked about this already tonight, but I prepared some remarks and I'm just going to give them. There were other proposals and other open houses, but nothing that panned out. In 2017, it was purchased by another developer and people thought maybe this time The following year, in 2018, the community was very anxious to see development on this site, and Councillor Miller can vouch for this, that the number one election concern was the development at that time of the site. We were encouraged when the Sternino family completed the demolition and we hosted Brick Day. Remember that fun day? But then things stalled. No plans came forward and hopes were dashed. We are in a housing crisis. We know this. We need affordable housing, and in particular, more subsidized housing. But we need more rental units. The number one reason rental rates are high in St. Catharines is because of the lack of stock. Now we have a proposal to bring to our city nearly an additional 2,500 rental units, yes, over several years, with 3,000 parking spaces and 1,000 bike parking spots, not to mention commercial space and improvements to our multi-use trail system. We are dealing with a proposal from a credible developer. Someone who has a portfolio, of built and renovated projects, along with applications in the works that are similar to what is proposed for 142 Queenston. Just take a look at the website and you will see these developments. I know a lot of people are stuck on the height of the building, and I'm pleased to see that staff has identified potential wind issues through the holding provision. I'm confident that this can be corrected through site plan process. But we have tall buildings in St. Catharines, and while it might be jarring at the beginning, it will become part of the streetscape and what is considered normal 6 months after it's open and our new neighbors have joined our community. The thing about what you saw in the renderings when they were talking about moving the buildings, it's not going to look like that. It's not going to be these big gray blobs that look terrible in the community. They're going to be houses. There's like housing spaces. I travel often to various cities throughout Ontario, and I find myself saying no city does infill better than Ottawa. They build back from the sidewalk or recess buildings on platforms, and this helps to mitigate the feeling of large towering buildings to those walking by, but they are great ways to densify an area. Every time a proposal comes forward to council, two things are raised: increased traffic and not enough parking. What we bring to these objections are our personal experiences. Many of you around the table will likely live, as do I, in a single-family detached home. What happens is we think the amenities we have must be needed by everybody else. It's a normal thing to do. But as a landlord, I can tell you with 1 and 2 bedroom units, rarely do I have issues with cars or parking. Tenants either ride transit, use bikes, use scooters, or walk, or they have 1 car for 2 people. Generally speaking, people who live in 1 and 2 bedroom units do not have 5 children there shuttling to hockey, band practice, and other activities and need 2 or more cars. I was also a tenant once who used public transportation, rode my bike, and walked most places. Additionally, the type of development that is being discussed here attracts young people. Councillor Ratzlaff has already alluded to the exciting transformation of the street that could happen, and the community gathering, and all of these things that will happen with more neighbors. Will this development mean more traffic? Yes, but the experts who deal with traffic have made recommendations to deal with that excess. The traffic light, the extended road, all of this will help. But the other thing that this increased traffic is going to bring are more people to shop at the existing stores on Queenston, such as the fast food restaurants, Fidel's, Stephanie's, these businesses who have stuck by our community the entire time. And now we're going to have many more amenities as well, new retail, coffee shops, places to gather. I know every time there's a new development, people are upset that there aren't enough affordable units, and I can appreciate this. But we need to use our voices to continue advocating for increased rent subsidies, the funding of shelter spaces, and for increased rates to ODSP. This council cannot increase any of those amounts. We can ask that this council continue to advocate for this and not let the provincial government off the hook for failing to fund shelter services and housing subsidies. I'm excited about this proposal. I look forward to seeing hundreds of new people in the Queenston Meriton community over the next few years. I ask that you approve the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Littleton, for the presentation. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always nice to have a former colleague and councillor here to speak and share their passion, someone who's been very passionate previously on council. I mean, my question would have been is who did the heavier lifting while on council? Was it Littleton or Miller? But that won't be my question today. My question today is going to be, I know you're a local resident who live close to this site. Is there any concerns by you or your neighbors where this the towers could be taking away some of your privacy?
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. And the answer was Littleton. I'm just going to say that. Just kidding. Not really. But I'm just kidding, Councillor Miller. But basically, I live about, I'm trying to think, about a kilometer, maybe a kilometer from this site exactly, 800 meters, something like this. So I don't have direct kitty corner or anything like this to the development. What I will say is, for sure, some people might feel that that might intrude on their privacy. But if you look at some of the diagrams that are in your package, you'll see where they have the mixed use and the residential areas. There's actually a natural buffer because of the property being a former hospital, that there's also medical buildings, there's commercial, there's already like a natural setback, if you will, of commercial / mixed use space before we start getting to the residential areas of Tasker, Vine, Prince, these streets here. So yes, some people might feel like, wow, there's a lot of more people around here. There's people, I don't know, maybe I feel like this is encroaching on my privacy, but generally, I don't know. I live with an apartment building that abuts onto the back of my property, and I've never felt that, they're looking in my backyard or anything like that, if that helps.
Thank you, and thank you for delegating tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. And seeing no other questions, thank you, Ms. Littleton, for your presentation. I will now call upon Diane Foster to speak. Ms. Foster, welcome. The lectern is yours.
I got it.
Ms. Foster knows how this one works.
I was a part of the committee, or am a part of the committee, who had this design. Thank you very much.
And we thank you for it. It is my favorite feature of the entire room.
It works for those of us who need it. Anyway, thank you. Mayor Cisco, councilors. As a resident in this area of the city, I have some of the same issues. It's the height, basically. I don't have a problem with 9 towers. I have a problem with the height of the towers. I have a problem with, as was already mentioned, the vehicles, the parking. They park in front of my house. They block my driveway. They think that's okay. The dust that has been created, I can't even sit on my desk because the heavy trucks that are going by are, streets aren't being cleaned, but all of the dust and all of the mud from the trucks that are carrying all the dirt out is polluting my environment. I can't breathe. My asthma kicks up. It's like I have a dog who likes to play outside too, and she's coughing. It's like, why is that? It's the height of the towers. I agree that we need to do something with this property. I agree that we need to have some development, but do we need to have 24 stories? This isn't Toronto. This is St. Catharines. We do not need Toronto-sized buildings in St. Catharines. And why do we have to change our bylaws to accommodate some company from out of town to come in here and create 24-story towers and change our whole neighborhood? I'm sorry, but I'm opposed to that. And I think that there's other ways to develop this property. Bring down the height of the tower. Make sure that the people who are building, your contractors, are taking into consideration the residents of the area, that you're not blocking driveways, that you're not parking in no parking zones, that you're not using these side streets for your loading and unloading and parking your vehicles while you go and do something else. And make sure that your environment is cleaned up after yourself. It's like, I'm so tired of my road being so muddy and I can't breathe because you got this heavy trucks going by and kicking up all the dust, and I can't breathe. Can't open my windows in the summertime because of the dust that's being created in my environment. Just so many things. Yes, build on the property. Yes, give us something, but we don't need 24-story towers. You're also not catering to the people in St. Catharines. We've been talking about we need affordable housing. Well, where's the affordable housing? Yeah, this is not affordable housing. This is midline. You can go up, you can go down. Well, no, we need to cater to the people who live in our city. Who live in our city and who are supporting the businesses in our city. Not people who are going to move here and commute because the rents are cheaper here than they are in Toronto or Hamilton or wherever. So, as you see, I have no speaking notes, but I speak from my passion, from my heart. You all know me, you've heard me speak before on accessibility as well. I also want to know, speaking about accessibility, I know that right now the AODA, which is the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities, as well as the OBC, which is the Ontario Building Code, are working on merging so that the Ontario Building Code will be more in sync with the AODA. That's supposed to be happening soon. Now, my question then is, when this happens, are the new construction that's going to happen, are they going to have to be compliant with the new code as it comes into effect, or are they going to be compliant with what was approved for them now? Because to me, 15% accessible units is not enough in an aging population, and as was already said, where do people with disabilities park their stuff if you haven't got a unit big enough to accommodate them? And is your accessible unit actually fully accessible? Because that's an issue that I have, even with washrooms. Are they fully accessible? No. You tell me it's accessible, then I go and it's got no power door opener. How do I get into my unit if it doesn't have a power door opener? I have to drive my chair, I have to make sure my dog's not under my wheels, and I need to try and hold the door open while I'm trying to get into my unit. Power door openers are an important part of accessibility necessary. Are all of your closet spaces having racks at a height that I can actually reach? Or are they way up in the sky where people who are on their feet can reach them? Because I can't. So when you're talking about an accessible unit, are you consulting with the people who actually need the access to find out what it is we need? Or are you just building them according to the building code, which isn't accessible? So that's basically what I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Foster. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Ms. Foster, for coming in tonight. I always appreciate when you do come in passionate, and you're right, you never use notes, you speak from the heart, so it's really appreciated. My question is the street cleaning was something you mentioned, but I'll ask staff about that one later. But the heights, yeah, a lot of people do have the comment of, 24 is too high and whatnot. Is there a comfortable, like, are you thinking like 6 to 8 stories? Just curious about maybe what your vision for the site might be, because you live, close by, it sounds like.
Well, I think the last developer had applied for and received for 12 stories. I think that's sufficient. You're wanting to double that. 12 stories is enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend, and thank you, Ms. Foster, for your presentation today. At this time, I will now call upon Graham Love to speak. Mr. Love, welcome. The lectern is yours.
Thank you. Is that good? That's great. Yeah. I will use prepared notes, but good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Graham Love, and I'm a resident of the Queenston area. I live just off Queenston, and 2 of my boys attend Conant Public School, and I work in the downtown core, so I pass a former hospital site every day on my way to the office. I'm a part of this neighborhood, and I care about its future. I want to share my support of the redevelopment of the Queenston site. The site has been inactive for many years, and this project offers a clear pathway to renewal. It adds needed housing to the city's core, supports local businesses, and makes full use of existing infrastructure. It also works alongside the efforts of groups like the Community Land Trust of Niagara and other local initiatives focused on attainable housing. This project is not the only solution, but it is a needed one. I acknowledge the concerns some residents have raised. The build-out will unfold over a long period, and that gradual pace gives the neighborhood the space it needs to adapt as new homes and activities take shape. I spent 25 years living in Seoul, Korea, and saw how well-planned density creates strong neighborhoods. Dense areas become centers of activity, community life, and economic energy. People live close to services, shops, and transit. That same pattern can help St. Catharines grow in a steady and sustainable way while keeping our urban footprint contained. This project strengthens the Queenston area and supports a more connected future for the city. It's a step towards a place where people at every stage of life can find an attainable home. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Love. At this time, I will call upon Tim Shields to speak. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt. Thank you very much, Mr. Shields. The lectern is yours.
All right. Oh, this is on already? Sweet. I'm shorter than Graham over there, so I'll bring it down. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Shields. I live over on Berryman in the shadow zone, shall we say. I represent myself as a resident and also the Queenston Neighbors, which is an asset-based Queenston or neighborhood group in this neighborhood. We meet in the local school. The group is for anybody that lives, works, or plays in the Queenston Neighbors. Open to everybody, and it emphasizes again, it's an asset-based community group. So we look at what assets we have as a community and use that to drive our discussion. So first off, we also have an offshoot committee. It's a housing committee, and they've prepared essentially a letter from our discussions, and also with Mr. Litt, who's been very involved and given much of his time actually to the group. So I'll read this, and then I got a couple additional points to that. So Stephen Litt of Vive Development was invited and virtually attended the February Queenston Neighbors meeting. Members took the opportunity to meet him at the city's October town hall meeting held at Connaught School. The February meeting was kind of cool because the students came up with their own designs and presentations for Mr. Litt, and they're able to take pictures and share that, which is awesome. So although the development of 142 Queenston will begin the gentrification of our neighborhood, it will also bring additional services to public transit, and with the increase of residents, a much-needed grocery store eventually, which is always on the topic. Oh, there's a clock here. Sorry, that distracted me. With this change to the Queenston Street area, it will be important to continue educating renters of their rights as tenants to maintain our existing affordable housing stock, which our housing committee is very strong advocates for about rental rights. We agree that an affordable one-bedroom unit listed at $1,700 does not reflect the income of our neighbors, but income equality is a provincial government responsibility. A minimum wage of $17.60 an hour is not a living wage. Social assistance programs funded at 50% below the poverty line are draconian, and we urge everyone here to address this with the Premier of Ontario, Mr. Ford. Vive Development's investors are not responsible for providing attainable, notice I use the word attainable in this, not affordable, are not responsible for providing attainable housing that reflects 30% of one's income. However, Queenston Neighbors is satisfied that Mr. Litt is taking advantage of every available federal and municipal funding programs to reduce the rent of their affordable units. This is something that's come up in every conversation we have had with him in all the meetings, which we've noticed. Mr. Litt has genuinely shown an interest in working with the providers of our area that serve Queenston Street's most vulnerable neighbors, and we look forward to a continued good working relationship with him. We would like to take this opportunity to ask our mayor and city councilors to have the Municipal Development Corporation work with us in offering social housing in the Queenston Street area on land that the city has declared surplus to requirement. Is this something that you can facilitate for us? And then my additional points on these is I noticed a lot of things came up about privacy. So like Lori Littleton, I also back onto, well, Tim Hortons, so I can hear what everybody orders. But there's also an apartment building right out my backyard. It's maybe 5 stories tall. I've never questioned, I can see them. So maybe their privacy, it's a little more awkward for them sometimes, but I've never worried about privacy there. So I didn't hear that came up, so I have a very similar situation, so I don't think any taller at some point. I can't even see that high, so yeah. So that was it. And as I made the joke about the shadow zone, I kept trying to tell people, look at the shadow stages, they're so cool. But nobody wanted to and nobody's interested, so I guess I'm still the only one who looked at that. And I'm not covered in the actual shadow zone, just so you know. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shields. I will say, just to your final question, as the chair of the Municipal Development Corporation, I can definitely facilitate that for you, so we will make sure that we get a meeting set up for the Queenston Neighbors and Mr. Herbert and folks with the MDC. Not a problem.
Awesome.
And I'm going to take this opportunity. Thank you for the work that you do with Queenston Neighbors and all the work that Queenston Neighbors do. Councillor Miller and Councillor Lindell do a good job of keeping us updated on what's going on in the neighborhood, and so we always appreciate that. I'm now going to go to questions. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Shields, you mentioned that this is going to bring additional services in public transit, which is desperately needed. I know that, but what are you basing that statement on?
More people, you need more things. So that's the, you know, if there's that many people, having a few more runs of public transit makes more sense and becomes needed. So it's kind of a natural progression of what would be required.
Let's hope that that is correct.
Yeah.
As the chair of the Niagara Transit Commission, I can also step in perhaps and say that that is indeed how we decide where we're going to put additional routes and so, or additional service on routes. So density is a wonderful thing when it comes to transit. Councillor Ratzlaff.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Mr. Shield, great presentation. I know you were looking for a lot of questions, so I had to ask one. I really like the idea of having the students kind of provide some vision for that site. I'm just curious if there was any standout designs or anything that you heard repeated from the students that they'd like to see in their neighborhood, whether it materializes on that site or not. I think it's worth hearing from the younger voice.
Green space, playgrounds, those are the two that stood out to me. The rest you would have to, I'd have to go look at the pictures myself, but I know they sent them to Mr. Litt as well. So.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you very much, Mr. Shields, for your presentation today. At this time, I will call upon Krista McCabe to speak. Ms. McCabe, the lectern is yours.
All right, I did make notes because I will get lost if I don't. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, staff, and everyone attending this evening. My name is Krista McCabe. I am the founder of Tenant Talk Niagara and one of 5 ACORN members here in Niagara. For those of you that don't know, ACORN is a tenant right activist group, and that is what I'm here to speak on behalf of, is tenants. So with this development for 142 Queenston Street, as you've heard, the proposal is for 2,443 units. I'm not going to go into pricing too much other than we do need to talk about the ranges for ODS POW. That is a provincial matter. I'm not disputing that. as well as minimum wage. The problem with that is the Ford government is pushing to build more homes faster, and that is not to benefit the tenants. Many of you may not know, many of you may, but as of 2018, November, anything built after that is not rent controlled. So these units that are being proposed might sound nice, fine, and dandy for $1,700, but who's to say after the first year it doesn't go to 18, 19, 2,000, and continue? We have folks in this area, I do for a living, I work with the homeless community, and we have vacancies. We do not have a vacancy issue, we have a landlord issue here in Niagara. And anybody that is disputing that, I welcome you to come and talk to me. I take clients on viewings on a daily basis, and there's multiple apartment buildings with vacancies, and my clients can have the income, but they're being denied for silly things like their credit scores or their source of income, whether it's ODSP, OW, CPP, OAS. That's all discrimination. However, it's not a vacancy issue. We have vacancies here. That's what we need to focus on. This development is not going to help anybody. The prices are dropping as it is, but this development is literally going to bring people from out of town, whether it's Toronto, Hamilton, you name it, because their rents are skyrocketing even higher than Niagara, and they're gonna wanna come here to lower their prices. Now, this evening, somebody had mentioned that with this development, people maybe wanna move up. I would say no, because it's not rent controlled. I don't think anybody wants to move right now because they know that their rent is not secured. Regarding people moving down, sure, if they're already paying $2,300 for a 2-bedroom and this build is offering $2,000 for a 2-bedroom, of course they're gonna wanna move down. But what happens to their unit? It doesn't change. The next tenant's expected to pay that $2,300 or more. So really, who are we helping? We're in the middle of a housing crisis right now, and although the funds of the the amount for the rent is not something City Council can obviously demand. I do hope that you guys can push it. I want to thank Vive, however, for mentioning the Housing Accelerator Fund and also listening to when we had that open house at Connaught, I did mention about the accessibility. We needing more units than just what the current Ontario Building Code states. So I do thank you for mentioning that and willing to look into that. So yeah, with the accessibility, we're looking at 15% currently without any additional, so that's 366 units. I'm not gonna touch on traffic and heights because everybody else has pretty much done that. But again, my 3 key points are affordability, accessibility, and obviously community impact. We've heard about the height, we've heard about the pricing, and like I said, we need to focus on Niagara, and unfortunately, this is not something that is suitable to help the Niagara people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McCabe. Councillor Miller.
I just want to say thank you, Chris, for coming in. The work of Acorn is probably more important now than ever with the attack on renters that we're seeing from the provincial government. And I want to assure you as best I can that affordability is always top of mind. I know Councillor Townsend does a lot of the heavy lifting of asking developers about their affordability plans and suggesting how they could add more affordability to it. So I guess we can pledge that we will continue to bring that up and on behalf of tenants, current and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Ms. McCabe, for the presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, is there anybody else in attendance who wishes to speak? All right. Oh, sir, come on up. If I could just ask you to give your name to the council coordinator as you're walking past there. And the lectern is yours, sir.
Good evening. I feel a bit out of place. I live next door to the new development, so I'm closer to it than I think most people are. I've had my building for 30 years here in St. Catharines, and I've offered a service to the people with mental handicapped, also with addictions, and we also do help street people. I'm very in favor of seeing the development occurring in this property. However, from where I'm at, it's going to have I see it as a problem for me. I've been asked, you have to excuse me, I'm very nervous here. I would like to know the exact distance this building will be from my building. If I could get an answer to that, I'd appreciate it. And the wall that will be facing my building, how high will that be? Presuming it will be a full 24 stories. And will it be just a wall, or will there be excuse me. Will it be just a straight wall, or what will be facing my building? I'm curious about. I've been approached to put tiebacks under my building by the company, and I haven't agreed to that as of yet. And my building, again, I've had it for 30 years, and it's a fairly old building. And I'm very concerned about the integrity of the structure itself. Also with the people that I help in the city here, I don't just help the people with the mental health issues and also with addictions. We do help street people when we can. So I offer service to this, to the city for quite a long time, and I think it's been a good service. And that, again, I guess my main concern is the integrity of the structure of my building, and that what the impact that this structure is going to have on it. And further down the road, will there cause other problems? Right now, we've got a nice dry basement, things like this here. I don't know if things like that would be impacted later on down the road. I would also like to know how far back this building will set from the front of my building. I believe it will be set back a certain amount because it's going to create a lot of shade over our building. And I understand that it was to be 4.5 meters from my building, and that is far too close. From my knowledge, the existing bylaw states 4.5 for a 3-story building, and now we're talking a 24-story building. So I'm asking council not to grant that part of it, to give this extra close footage to my building. And again, I stand on my years as a good citizen in St. Catharines, and I've had a lot that I've offered to the city. So I don't know if I'm expressing myself properly or not, but anyway, that's the main thing. Again, just to surmise, I would like to know how far back the building would set, so that from the front of my building, and again, if it is to be a 4.5 or 4 meter, I think that's totally unacceptable. And that, again, because of the integrity of my building and the type of people that I help, I'm very happy to see that there's going to be a park in the back. That'll be a definite asset to people that I serve. And that at the moment we have the trees in the back, and I have a lot of people that are schizophrenic, and they feel quite comfortable sitting back on our patio because of this, and that. So, yeah, I guess those are the main issues that I wanted to address and I wanted to concern. So,
okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you, and excuse my nervousness.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Ratzlaff, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, through you. Brian, thanks for coming today. As a past neighbor of yours, I want to say thank you for the work that you do in our city. And you did very well today. If you, just similar to what Councillor Townsend did for the other resident, rather than having staff answer your questions now, if we get your contact information, I'm sure we can have staff answer the questions that you've posed today. Does that work?
That is taking his direction to staff.
Thanks.
Okay.
I want to say that I'm very happy to see the developments coming there. I was very excited when I heard about it. It's just the impact on my own building that I'm very nervous, and
Absolutely.
the people that I'm serving, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Townsend, you had a question? Sir, if you could just wait and...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chisholm, for coming here tonight. As someone who's known you since I was probably 5 years old, I appreciate you being here tonight. And I did have on the list the 4-meter question, which I will be asking, and I appreciate Councillor Ratzlaff for, he's going to connect you with the staff to get you some answers on that as well. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. Is there anybody else in attendance who wishes to speak? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public meeting? Councillor Townsend, Councillor Miller, all those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Public meeting is now closed. Council's called to order. Persons wishing to receive notice of council's decision should submit a written request to the office of the city clerk. I have Councillor Lindell, who is up first.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to know if we can refer this back to staff to come back on December 8th with a refreshed recommendation regarding the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and plan of subdivision approval conditions, and that this week staff meet with yourself, myself, Councillor Miller, and the CAO to determine how the city can work with the developer to achieve a recommendation that works for all parties.
So that's a motion to refer. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Miller? All right, non-debatable. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So moving on, we have no presentations this evening, so we will move on to item 9.1, which was moved from consent to discussion. This is the Municipal Works Report, Development of Invasive Species Management Plan. Prior to discussing the report, we will hear delegations from Horst Mielke, Kathy Thompson, Jeanette Marchand, and Anne Tashunier. I will now call upon Horst Mielke to present. And I apologize if I have mispronounced that. And the lectern is yours, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and councilors and staff. My name is Horst Mielke. Thank you for your devotion to serve the citizens of the Garden City. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present a petition entitled Give Us Back Our Lake and briefly speak to it as comments to agenda item 6.5. A PDF copy of the was initially submitted by email on October 24th, ahead of the town hall meeting on October 29th. Since then, at least 20 more signatures have been added. We built our house at 89 Westgate Park Drive in 1975, and I believe we're the only original homeowners along Westcliff Park shoreline. In 1974, there was a complete unobstructed view of the beautiful Lake Ontario. The slope was covered in grasses similar to the type that the Department of Highways plants along slopes of bridges. Our 4 girls used to roll down the grass-covered slopes or toboggan down in winter. That lasted for about 20 years. Then, City Parks workers would trim the edge of the slopes with tractors that had long blades that could cut down the slope for some 8 feet. Later, some remotely operated mowers were used in the slopes. Then it all stopped. I received emails from Park Super, I believe it was Bob Christie, that the slopes were left for natural regeneration, basically let them go wild. Over years, local residents would try to trim some of the wild growth, and then that stopped as threatening letters were issued to residents of Westgate Park Drive stating that at no time is it acceptable to cut foliage for any reason, and such cutting will be enforced through bylaw, even requesting that we snitch on anyone we see cutting. Over the years, city has planted linden trees, then ash trees, which have all been taken down due to parasites spreading and killing the trees. There are only 4 empire oak trees left, which are over a century old, being threatened by wild parasitic vines. We planted many trees on our lot and probably have the most trees on the lot and in the neighborhood. Trees are great, but trees and coyotes should not be treated as more important than people who are trying to enjoy the beauty of our waterfront parks, like those in Niagara-on-the-Lake, for example. The Waterfront Access Master Plan was adopted by Council May 24th, 2024. On page 57, Westcliff Park is listed with a budget of $465,000, but of low priority. Based on past performance and the Invasive Species Management Plan, passing the buck to yet another consultant for a study is not acceptable progress for us homeowners who have paid extra taxes, at least $1 million over the past decades, for the privilege of being assessed as waterfront. As well stated in an email by Mr. George Orr, the newest resident on the shoreline, November 16th, and I quote, "A key direction of the St. Catharines Waterfront Access Plan is promoting visual and physical access and connecting a publicly accessible waterfront to create a continuous waterfront feature where feasible." And Master Plan's analysis of the current situation concluded that views from Westcliff Park are limited with vegetation overgrowth. The Master Plan also noted that in its preparation, staff heard from residents for the need to keep sightlines open with consistent upkeep to enjoy Lake Ontario. This message has not changed. There is no need to wait for a consultant's report on invasive species management to tell us what the WAMP clearly states. There is a need to improve vistas along Westcliff Park. After extensive data collection and preparation of the plan in 23 and 24, it is time to get on with implementation and recommendations. We request that the City of St. Catharines take action to clear the wild invasion of shrub growth along waterfront trail shorelines, blocking the view of the beautiful Lake Ontario for residents and waterfront trail hikers who forego using the memorial benches, which were largely paid for by donors who were expecting they to be used by happy wanderers to enjoy the great view that is now mostly obstructed. Just briefly, the last time Ruth and I were in these hollowed chambers in 2002, we received certificates of recognition for saving 2 lives on Lake Ontario, as well as commendations from the Governor General. We do not seek recognition as troublemakers for council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milky. Do we have any questions? I'm sure that Councillor Williamson is going to want to ask a question. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just a minute, you're not on. Okay,
there we go.
You're good to go now.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Mr. Milky. Mr. Milky, so you're not looking to go back to square one where we completely clear cut everything. You're looking for trimming to regain some of the views, particularly in strategic places near memorial benches and nodes where people gather and along the waterfront trail. Is that clear? You don't expect it to be completely denuded of vegetation.
There are mature trees that definitely should remain.
Yep.
But for example, we have the annual July 1st fireworks. Years ago, the whole park was filled with people to watch the fireworks. Now, they all were sitting between my house and Mr. Donatelli's house where there was some view. Otherwise, it was all obstructed. So that just doesn't seem right to me.
Right, and you mentioned our previous program before it went to straight naturalization. The city had equipment that went over the edge of the bank to do trimming?
They had a tractor with a long blade that could cut all the weeds right along that edge. And then after that, they had a remote mower, remotely controlled, which went along that thing, got stuck a couple of times. After a couple of years, it was gone. I don't know what happened. I think basically it was allowed to grow wild for the bees and the birds and the coyotes.
Yeah, including invasive vines that are choking out native trees?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. And up next, I have Councillor
One more from
Mako.
me.
Nope, just one more second. Councillor Mako's got a question as well. No, that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to the presenters as well. Thank you, Horst, for coming tonight. Excellent presentation, and for coming to our Port Dalhousie Town Hall. This was one of the topics that definitely was most popular conversation item that night as well. So you mentioned the city was maintaining those embankments with that special equipment and then stopped. Do you recall roughly when that change happened?
In the last decade sometime, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious, maybe we can ask staff for some exact rationale.
It almost
why
looks
that
like
stopped.
these sumac and things, somebody planted them because they just shot up like crazy.
Interesting. I do have a report request coming at the end of this discussion that I think we're just going to focus more on the issue you're trying to address, but thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, sir, for the presentation.
Thank you.
And as noted, Councillors Mako and Williamson do have a report request coming that I think is going to drill down much more directly on the waterfront management issue. I'm going to call upon now Kathy Thompson to present. Ms. Thompson, the lectern is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. My name is Kathy Thompson. I've been under the weather all week, so my statement will be short, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to speak on this important subject. I have lived on Graham Avenue in Port Dalhousie for 33 years. For most of those years, we have enjoyed a great view of the lake from the bench at the end of my street. However, in recent years, the trees, bushes, shrubs, weeds, and invasive species like the Japanese knotweed have taken over and are so overgrown that we could no longer see the lake. This is the same at all of the vantage points and benches all along the lake in Port Dalhousie. I used to be able to take out-of-town friends and family to the end of the street to watch the sunset and generally enjoy the view of our beautiful lake, but now it's such a mess and overgrown, it's embarrassing. The city needs to address this issue and clean up and maintain our beautiful views of Lake Ontario. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Questions?
Are there any questions of council?
Thank you.
You have no idea how happy you made council. You were direct, you were to the point. We love presentations like that. At this time, I will call upon Jeanette Marchand to present. Ms. Marchand, the lectern is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councillor. I'm going to be even briefer. I live on the same street. My name's Jeanette Marchand. I've lived at 21 Graham Avenue for over 29 years. Part of the attraction of purchasing the house was that there was a bench at the end of the street. I could take a glass of wine, sit there and look at the sunsets. Over the years, the trees, weeds, and grass have grown so high that I can no longer see anything. Not that that's very high, but the only way to see a sunset now is to watch its reflection on my neighbor's humongous white house. That's how we know there's a sunset, the house is pink. Or I have to walk one street over to Shelley Avenue, sit on the bench where there's an unobstructed view of the lake, the way Graham used to be when I moved in. So if the city could invest in machinery or manpower to clear the lookout spots for all to enjoy at the end of the streets, I hope you will take this into consideration. Let us all enjoy the lake views. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Seeing no questions, thank you. And at this time, I will call upon Anne Tashunyi to present. And I'm hopeful that I came closer this time to pronouncing your last name. Did I get it this time?
Yeah,
Almost. I'm getting there.
Okay, so I am neighbors with Kathy and Jeanette. I'm about a street over. And so I've lived in Port Dalhousie for almost 25 years. And I'm speaking in support of maintaining the vistas in Port Dalhousie. And this would entail the management of invasive species as well as other vegetation which may or may not be classified as invasive, but nonetheless block the views of the water. So we love how the urban planning includes streets leading to the water with public spaces and benches where you can rest and enjoy the views, as have been mentioned, and as well on Martindale Pond. So the sunrises, sunsets, moonlight on the water, it's a great place to live. Sadly, many of the views have disappeared behind the growth of vines, weed trees, and highly invasive species, and as mentioned, the Japanese knotweed, which infects many of our properties. And we were building on one of the lots and had to dispose of the soil where the Japanese knotweed has infected, because apparently it can grow through cement. It certainly had grown through the floor of the little shed that we had taken out. On my little walking route in Port, many of the benches that were funded by community members and placed to have a view of the water, Lakeview Park, the end of Graham Abbey, donated parkland on Bayview and Ann look at a wall of green versus the views of the water that have now been occluded. And I understand this is similar on much of the waterfront trail. So as has been mentioned, consultants were hired many years ago to develop the waterfront plan with input from the citizens. And they recommended to not only maintain physical access to the water, but included maintaining the vistas. These are community assets that benefit both physical and mental health, well-being of the citizens. The request to maintain the vistas falls in line with the strategic goals of the city, including the master waterfront plan, the enhancement of social well-being and community assets, and to have well-maintained outdoor facilities. The public spaces along the water and the waterfront trail are an incredible asset for the city of St. Catharines. The invasive species report states that one of the impacts of invasive species is the aesthetic and recreational decline in parks and trails. And I've certainly witnessed the aesthetic decline in recreational areas with the occlusion of the vistas in the 25 years that I've lived here. So my queries to the mayor and the council are, how can the invasive species management plan be integrated with the goals of the waterfront master plan to maintain physical access as well as vistas to the water? And would the role of the invasive species management plan consultant that is recommended to be hired include the goal of the management of the vistas in the public spaces, since this may include the clearing and management of species such as vines and trees that may not reach the definition of invasive species, but nonetheless block the vistas? And at the Port Dalhousie Public Forum in October, the mayor mentioned that there's a possible pocket of funding available that could be used to purchase special equipment to enable the safe clearing of vegetation on steep embankments. So is the purchase of this equipment included in the budget? And if not, how does the inclusion of that purchase get moved forward for budgetary consideration? So that's my presentation.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Seeing no questions, thank you again. So at this time, I'm going to start by asking, can we have a motion to receive the delegations from the residents? Councillor Lindell, Councillor Dodge. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And then Is there anybody to move the recommendation in the report? Councillor Williamson, I see your hand raised.
The recommendation that I would like to make is that we receive the report for information purposes, and Councillor Mako, I believe, has a subsequent request for a report.
So we'll leave the second request. Once we finish dealing with this motion, we can then deal with the second request, just because they are separate issues. So this would be simply to receive for information. Councillor, I'm going to make the request. Could we then ask that it be revisited in advance of the 27 budget deliberations?
Hundo P.
Sorry, what's that?
100%.
100%, okay.
Yes. You've been out of the classroom for
I clearly haven't been in a classroom for a while. Hundo P. I'm going to try that one out at home. I'm sure it'll get a groan from my daughter. Okay, wonderful. So that is perfect. We see that there. So I have Councillor Williamson moving it. Do I have a seconder for the adulterated motion? Councillor Phillips. All right. I will look to the clerk unless there's conversation. I will look to the clerk to call the roll on this one.
Councillor Williamson? Yes. Councillor Phillips?
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes.
Councillor Mako?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Kushner?
Yes.
Councillor Harris?
Yes.
Councillor Dodge?
Yes.
Mayor Cisco?
Hundo P.
That's carried.
You all missed an opportunity there. I don't know why you just left that on the table for me. All right, so we are going to jump ahead just for a moment to report requests, item 12 on the agenda, because Councillor Williamson and Mako have a report request. And so if we could bring that up on the screen, it is relevant to the presentations, which is why we're moving it forward at this time. I don't think there are any objections to that. It's on the screen there. Councillor Mako or Williamson, whoever would like to sort of provide context for this.
In response to the delegations we've heard tonight, we do feel there's a more urgent, time-sensitive need to focus on the maintenance of the embankments and the slopes. So we thought this report request would help bring focus in advance of the next growing season. So would the clerk read it out, or you would like me to?
No, you get to read it out.
I get to read it out? Oh, my first time doing this. Okay. That staff prepare a waterfront management plan to be presented by the end of Q1 of 2026 that addresses the vista views adjacent to private properties and the public lands adjacent, including the waterfront trail and Martindale Pond. The report is to include any costs that may be associated with this work to be done in 2026, along with a funding source so work can begin in 2026, as well as information on potential budget impacts beyond 2026. So we tried to think of all of the elements that were going to be brought up during the speakers tonight, and we hope that's inclusive of them.
Good job. All right. Are there any other speakers to the motion? Oh, just, we may still be in voting mode.
No, how come
Wait. I thought it ticked over from voting mode, and it didn't tick over from voting mode, so. Hundo P. I'm not even saying it right. Councillor Dodge, were you up next? All right, so Councillor Dodge.
Okay. Do you think that it would be possible to have a friendly amendment to this and possibly look at all the waterfront where this would be an issue?
I believe that would probably be friendly. I'm looking at the movers, yeah. Yeah. So,
Did you? Okay. Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other comments or questions. Okay, so before we look to the clerk to, well, do we need to call the roll on this? No, because it's a report request. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to speak very briefly to it, and I'm going to say thank you to Councillors Mako and Councillor Williamson. This was one of the bigger issues to come through at the Town Hall STC event, and I know they've been listening to residents. I've also had the chance to go out and do some walkabouts, and I think we all recognize the need. We were hoping that perhaps the invasive species management plan would be what it was, or what could deal with this, but after reading it, I think we all came to the realization it was associated but not directly in line. And so I appreciate the leadership shown by the ward councilors. And additionally, to extend it across the waterfront. If we're spending a lot of money on a waterfront access plan, it makes sense to actually be able to see the water. Councillor Phillips, you wanted to jump in?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, also, Councillor Dodge and I often get calls about the bank along the Welland Canal between Lock 1 and Lock 2 in particular, where it's starting to become, there's some scrub brushes and trees and that growing there. So I would hope that that would also be included, not just along the lakefront.
If it is city land, yes.
Yes.
If it's Seaway land, then it's a different ball of wax.
Easy to ask for forgiveness and his permission, Mr. Mayor.
I don't imagine I could convince the deputy CAO to agree sending city crews onto Seaway land to start cutting things down, but I mean, you're welcome to try convincing her yourself.
Well, I know, given the last week's work along the below Lock 1, that the Seaway has lots of equipment, or somebody does, to deforest, so maybe we could get them to do it.
I will say I don't believe that work was actually done by the Seaway based on conversations I had today, but we'll chat about that offline.
Thank you.
All right. You know what? We might as well do all the report requests right now. Are there any additional report requests for this evening? Councillor Williamson?
Briefly talked to senior staff about this beforehand, and this is a request for a report on a maintenance program for the Port Dalhousie piers. There's $30 million, I think, at the time that they were built, and they're a very valuable resource and asset that a lot of people use. And the caulking between the concrete pads, a lot of it is missing, and if we have water penetrating between the pads, we start having heaving with freeze-thaw cycles, we're going to have some issues. And so I think it's important that we get ahead of it and get ahead of it quickly. So looking for a program and also a funding strategy to keep ahead of it.
Okay, so we've got that. Any other report requests? All right, seeing none, then we will move on to item 10. And at this time, I'll ask the deputy mayor to take the chair so I can move the motion.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead. Do you want to read the whole thing, or the abbreviated mayor's method?
You know what, Chair? I will probably just read the therefore be it resolved clauses.
I'm sure you'll want to add to it later.
Be it resolved that St. Catharines City Council advocate to the Province of Ontario for the creation and enactment of legislation herein referred to as the Regional Social Services Responsibility Act that would, one, establish a process by which a local area municipality may formally petition the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to assume responsibility for an area of social service delivery that is within a regional government's mandate but demonstrably unmet or inadequately fulfilled. Two, allow the ministry, upon review and approval of such petition, to authorize the local area municipality to undertake the necessary actions to provide the service directly. Three, require the regional government to reimburse the local area municipality for all reasonable and demonstrated costs incurred in fulfilling that service, ensuring that the local area municipality taxpayers are not financially penalized for the regional government's inaction. And four, encourage greater transparency and accountability by mandating annual public reporting by regional governments on compliance with their service responsibilities. And then there's a list of folks who we are sending this on to. And if I may, Chair, I think the preamble, although I did not read the entire thing, spells out the reasoning quite adequately. We are in a crisis situation when it comes to homelessness and opioid addictions and mental health. And at least in the offering of shelter and housing in homelessness services, those fall under the responsibility of the region. We can argue, and many have, about the shared responsibility from a funding perspective, but as I have said repeatedly, when your house is on fire, you don't argue about who's going to pay for the water. This very clearly, the delivery of shelter space, of supportive housing, falls very squarely with the regional level of government. And if it is truly a crisis, and the regional council has declared it an emergency, and has said that we need to deliver these housing supports for the homeless community, then we actually have to do it. It has been very difficult over the last 3 years as mayor, and in the year before that as a regional councillor. It's been very difficult sometimes to encourage my colleagues on regional council, not from St. Catharines or Niagara Falls, to understand the severity of this crisis and to understand just how detrimental it is to not have the appropriate shelter space, not have the appropriate supportive housing, and not have now, with a better understanding of it, the necessary highly supportive housing that could support the individuals that are currently living in our parks. We've had this conversation repeatedly at Public Health and Social Services. Our regional staff have been very clear that there is a fairly large cohort of individuals in our community, as well as in Niagara Falls and in Welland. Those are the 3 municipalities where a majority of the individuals who are living rough in Niagara are located. There's a very large number of them who require highly supportive housing. They can't be in the shelter system. Many of them have been restricted from shelter access and are not able to use the shelters. And I think some of my colleagues have actually said it best. It appears now that the policy of the region is homelessness, because no solutions have been offered, no new housing opportunities have been offered to the individuals who are being restricted. And while I understand the difficulty, I also understand that this is not something that should be playing out in our city parks and in our naturalized areas along the OPG trail and in the different creeks and waterfront areas. This is not appropriate. It's not okay for people to be forced to be living in tents when there is a level of government that is very clearly responsible for it. So it's my position that if we can't convince the rest of the region why this is important, then we should be able to go to the ministry and say, we've tried to impress upon the rest of the region why this money has to be spent, why this social housing has to be built, why we need highly supportive housing to support the people that have been restricted from regional shelters. Then we should be able to go to the ministry and say, we'll do it, let us bill it back to the region, because it still does not fall under our mandate. It is still not the responsibility of this level of government. It is still very clearly the regional responsibility. And given what we know about the demographics of the individuals experiencing homelessness in our community, the knowledge that, contrary to some belief that folks are being bused here from Hamilton or Burlington, that's not true. But we do know that the demographics of the people in our shelter system, the people not in our shelter system and point in time counts, actually reflect the population of Niagara pretty clearly, which means that individuals from other municipalities in Niagara are migrating towards St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and to a certain extent, Welland. Then the region and regional taxpayers should be footing the bill when it comes to housing those individuals, as is their responsibility. This idea came about in speaking to other mayors from big city municipalities at an OBCM meeting last month, and the increasing frustration that many of us existing in a 2-tier system are experiencing. Some of the municipalities are single tier, some exist in a county system, which I will say it seems about as convoluted some days as a regional system, but they have been able to get better action than those of us operating within a 2-tier regional system. And so I've had this discussion with fellow mayors in other lower tier municipalities in regions across the province who think this idea is a day that is long past coming. And so I would urge my colleagues to support it so that we can continue to put greater pressure on our colleagues at the region to properly fund the supportive and highly supportive housing that we desperately need, not just in our community, but which the city of Niagara Falls needs and the city of Welland needs as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and as usual, well spoken. Do we have any comments, questions? Councillor Williamson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the intent behind the motion, but, and I fully get the mayor's frustration on the issue, but I can't support it. The main issue we face, whether homelessness, supportive housing, or public health, is provincial underfunding, not necessarily regional inattention or neglect. These are provincial responsibilities delegated to municipalities, but without the resources needed to meet them. Targeting the region for provincial funding gap deflects from the root cause of the problem, and that is provincial government underfunding. Municipalities across Ontario and a lot of other places are struggling with these issues due to chronic provincial underfunding, inadequate mental health support, shelter funding that hasn't kept pace with demand, and social assistance rates far below the housing costs. And tonight we heard from people talking about the potential end of rent controls. We do have tools in place, democratic tools in place to influence regional priorities through our regional councillors and the budget processes. We still need to rely on those mechanisms. The trouble is, if we create a system that every time a lower tier municipality disagrees with the upper tier municipality, then you're going to run into problems, and it makes it hard for that upper tier municipality to budget, et cetera. The numbers that I got today, and it said this is for 2025, and perhaps the mayor, who's also a regional councillor, could correct me, but of the almost $30 million allocated, which came from federal, provincial, and regional monies, almost half of it, $14.5 million, came to the city of St. Catharines. So proportionally, we are getting a good chunk of it, and recognizing the fact that a big city like St. Catharines, we have disproportional problems, obviously. And that's a credit to you, Mr. Mayor, for the fact that we got that proportion of the money through, well, and other regional St. Catharines councillors for their advocacy. But the trouble, I just think that allowing each municipality to take over regional responsibilities and then billing back to the region is going to create duplication in services, inconsistent standards, and like I already said about budgeting. No effective governance model allows one tier to spend money that the other tier is required to pay. Anyway, in the end, this motion shifts attention away from the real source of the problem, which is provincial underfunding. And I think I would like to see us put our voice behind advocating for the province to fund these mandates, since they control them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One small, hopefully friendly amendment is, could we circulate this to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as well? Because I've heard from across the country, my colleagues across the country, that there are many different forms of government that are experiencing the same thing, whether you're in BC or Halifax or wherever. I'd like to applaud the mayor for bringing this motion forward. Councillor Ratzlaff, myself, and the mayor have been sitting at a table at the region for the Downtown Wellness and Safety Committee. Is that the correct term for it? And I can honestly say it's been one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had. And it is not, it's not about the staff. It's that there is not a recognition by many regional councillors across Niagara that we are in a crisis in St. Catharines. I can tell you that I spend most of my time getting calls from residents who are either concerned about someone living in a tent, complaining about someone living in a tent. And while, as Councillor Williamson mentioned, we may be getting 14 million of it, it's not enough. It's just not enough. And I don't think that everyone who sits up at the region understands just what our residents are experiencing. And the bouncing around that residents experience when they call and say, who takes care of this encampment? Sometimes it's on regional property, sometimes it's on city property, sometimes it's on MTO land, or OPG. we have people living in crisis. We need the housing. No, it's not our mandate, but at this point, we are the ones closest to the ground, and I think that we are the ones closest to the situation, and we understand what's needed in our city. So I'm very supportive of this, and you know, if it means that there's action taken by regional councillors, then that's fantastic, and hopefully we never have to build them back. But if this is a way to get it kickstarted, then I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Chair. Would there be, I'd like to see a friendly amendment added to this, if possible, to include, to ensure that the province earmarks the appropriate funds to the region that do get passed down. I think there does have to be some province piece into this as well, ensuring that I understand that we're advocating that the province push the region, but I want to make sure that the province is actually not underfunding the region right now. We all know that there does need to be more money put towards homelessness and housing, and I don't see a piece of that in here that encompasses within this motion right now. So I'm wondering if that would be a friendly amendment to add.
Mayor?
We could, if I could ask the council coordinator to make that a separate clause, so not number 5, but the next, therefore, be it resolved clause, or be it further resolved, sorry. And I would suggest perhaps in terms of language, be it further resolved that the city call on the province to increase the funding available for homelessness services, I think keeping it as general as possible, at a level at least equal to the per capita average of other regional municipalities. And then we can delete the rest of that. And I think that captures it, Councillor? Yeah. Okay.
Your needs, Councillor? Yes, thank you.
That is friendly. I'm assuming Councillor Harris, it's wonderful.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before we go to a vote, I'd like to ask our Councillor?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just another circulation question. I'm wondering, can we send this to the Niagara region if the intention is to get their attention?
The mayor says yes. I'm sure they're.
Well, this might give them the opportunity to discuss it, which I think
They're
would be.
probably watching it tonight.
Yeah, but I think it would be good if it came up directly. That would be straight fire. So that's it. I'm loath to give this current provincial government more powers, but I will support the motivation behind this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kushner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's an expression in law which I like, which is that bad laws are never repealed, but instead they are amended. And that reminds me of the situation we have now. Our shelters are not the answer for those who have addictions. We've been told that in the case of Southridge, originally they were a dry shelter, people without addictions, and it worked very well. And then when they are required to become a wet shelter, that is to house people with addictions, then the problem started. And one of the problems is that they are not inside the shelter, but outside where people are attracted who have addictions and will not want to enter a shelter. So my sense is we're modifying the use of shelters, and I think our approach should be much more radical, where we go back to what we had many years ago, and that was what were called Ontario hospitals, where people were with addictions received proper accommodation, proper food, and proper medical services. And I think that's the model that it would be a provincial responsibility to take these on. And my understanding is that British Columbia has gone back to a involuntary, mandatory commitment, and which is in a sense what we had years ago. And that's the approach we should take. But in the meantime, if we can't go that far, then the motion that's on the table today, I fully support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other councillors who wish to speak to it before we go, I'd like to ask our CAO, just for the sake of information, percentage-wise, what would you say your time is spent on homelessness first? And secondly, how much did we spend last year out of our operating budget on the homeless issue?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You know, the time in which I spend, or our office in particular spends on these issues, it's not just, and just to clarify, it's homeless, it's all of the other mental health addictions and whatnot. We're anywhere on a week between 30 and 60% of our time devoted, sometimes more. It could, you know, that could vary depending on situations. In terms of what we've spent operationally, you know, that number is quite significant. I'm kind of looking at our treasurer, but we're in the millions. I would suggest, you know, 3-ish million that we spend dealing and addressing with these issues, probably more when you factor some of the unaccounted for costs. So we have to manage our staff. We've introduced new programs, the public space bylaw, others like that. So it's quite a significant amount of time and money that's being spent on these issues.
Thank you, David. My point in asking that question is just to make the public aware, who's working it or who's watching, and anyone else, that we do our share. We're not shirking our responsibility, even though we're going beyond what our expectations are and trying to meet this problem with the limited budget and the limited time we have. Mr. Mayor, did you want to add something, or do you just want me to call the question?
Chair, I was just going to say, not to ever disagree with my CAO, but we did, with the land transfer and everything else, I believe in one of the last 3 years, we actually touched $9 million in terms of the costs related to downstream effects of homelessness in St. Catharines. I think on an annual basis, it's somewhere between 3 and 4 million, but we have crested 9 million because of those issues. And with that, I will call the question.
Thank you. To the clerk.
Mayor Cisco?
Yes.
Councillor Harris?
Yes.
Councillor Kushner?
Yes.
Councillor Lindell?
Yes.
Councillor Dodge?
Yes.
Councillor McPherson?
Yes.
Councillor Miller?
Yes.
Councillor Ratzlaff?
Yes.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes.
Councillor Williamson?
No.
And Deputy Mayor Phillips?
Yes.
That's carried.
For clarity, when I sat down there, Councillor McPherson actually asked me why I changed it from my original name of the Do Your Job Act. And I'd like to thank the CAO for moderating my sarcastic tone, which I do take from time to time. He's a good influence on me. All right, moving on to 11. Are there any calls for notice of motion? Any notices of motion? Seeing none. We can jump forward to 13, the committee and task force minutes. Can I have a mover to receive and file the minutes? Councillor Dodge, Councillor Lindell, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. There is no closed session. There is no motion arising from closed session. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the bylaws? Councillor Townsend? Except G and H. Councillor Townsend, Councillor Lindell. So that we consider and pass A to I, except G and H? Except G and H, that be signed and executed by the mayor and the clerk. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And a motion to adjourn. Who wants to make it? Councillor Townsend, Councillor McPherson, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Good